coming down to
Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
Oh, they're going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's come back into play. Exactly, Miller's still start dropping. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry!
Good evening, good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. We are here in Prenois, France for the Dijon race for the VWSC historic race here this evening. We're looking forward to a great race. We've got an hour and a half, maybe having a bit of a weather here, 66 laps, and maybe a bit of drama and action as the rain starts already coming a bit down. You can see the spray there in the background here, but we're looking forward to a fantastic race here at Dijon. It's a tough track, it's a fast track, fairly short as well, very difficult to overtake, and in these conditions it's going to be a real handful in some of these cars. It's Stephen Caraboulis on the mic here for James Parfitt Broadcasting with James Parfitt himself. Good evening, James. How are you doing? Yeah, we've got a few races still to come. We've got Dijon here, 250 kilometres around this track here. We're looking at the Saturdays on the right-hand side, and we'll go to Hungaroring on the 15th of August, followed by Suzuka and Donington, two fantastic tracks, and then the Red Bull Ring before heading to Miami, finishing up the season with Laguna Seca, an absolute iconic track with that corkscrew there. Looking forward to all of those races. This track, known for its fast sweeping bends, it opened in 1972. It's hosted the F1 GP 5 times, and that's where the lap record comes from here. 101.380 by Alain Prost for Renault in 1982, which was actually the Swiss Grand Prix. They actually banned motorsport due to the 1955 Le Mans incident. I'm sure everybody who's into the motorsport knows all about that one, but it was possibly the worst disaster in motorsport ever. 80 people died, 178 people injured, and yeah, that caused the Swiss to ban motor racing in their country altogether. So the Swiss GP was held in France in 1982. The lap record in a race is a 102.985 for Ingo Gerst in the Toro Rosso F1 car in 2015. Cars that we've got on track here are the GT2s and the LMP GT1s hypercars as well. So they respectively are the 118.390 for Olivier Beretta in the Chrysler Viper in 1998 and a 110.861 for Bernd Schneider in the Mercedes CLK in 1998 as well. It's a tough track to overtake, this one, James. It's going to be fairly difficult for people to get moves done without a mistake in front, do you think?
As well, so the tyre choices that you will have for tonight are going to be the softs, the wets and the hards, and then you're going to have the intermediate, the softs, wets and hards also. So it's going to be an exciting one, I think, for everybody to contend with here as well, and this will be some of the challenges they're going to have to contend with.
Yeah, tyre conservation being the big one. It's going to be tough on the front left tyre around here, being a clockwise track. The Nissan is doing a very good job in practice to take care of those tyres, so it's got a bit of an advantage there. The fuel strategy, as always, comes into play. We're going to have a few pit stops, maybe 2 or 3 for each class, and rain possible. Rain's coming, rain's already there. We could have a wet start here, and that always throws up a bit of drama and causes people to make mistakes. And with these fast sweeping corners at this track and the undulating nature of the track, the up and down nature, the grip is going to be difficult to get a handle on.
Yeah, they definitely are. It's going to be a tough one, but here's the LMGT2 AM standings currently. You see Peter Meyer in the Chrysler Viper GTS R is on 40 points with 4 wins, with Filippo Marazzi in the second with 1 win on 34. Maximilian Petrovsky on 10 points with Matthew Simeone as well on 6. And then Eugene Mazur, Josh Maglinsky, Paolo Tempera and Alan Hanglin. And then we've only got one team, of course, that are out in front at the moment. But there is the LMGT2 Pro standings for you, Steve.
Yeah, JT Tabby leading the way on 30 points by virtue of having 1 more win than Ross Smith, who's there in second place. And 29 points is Matthew Overton right behind. Very tight at the top here in the LMGT Pro, where they've got Ben Boerman, Dave Coors and Joe Miller making up the next 3, followed by Jeffrey Ellis, Vasilis Kataranakis and Tim Vanderberg. On 0 points there at the bottom. It's going to be interesting to see there, but interesting to note that Peter Meyer's actually won the last 4 races in the ARM category for the GT2s. It'll be interesting to see if he can make it a 5th in a row. That would be immense. JT Tammy won the last time out in Le Mans, but moving on to the LMGT1 ARMs, we've got Becky Eli, who's commanding lead at the moment, 3 wins under her belt, and George Angelidis not far behind on 28 points, followed by Wayne Hutchinson in P3 on 27. So it's looking very tight in this category as well. Barry Dimarzo been spinning quite a lot in practice beforehand. Hopefully he can get a handle on things and gain some points. He sits there on 24 points in P4, followed by Jerry Chen in the Porsche 911 on 13, Stephen Miller in P6 on 12 points. Eric Monet in the Ferrari is on 6.5, followed by Guillaume Bank on 4 in P8, Tom Mountjoy, Mike Olsen, Tony Boynton and Graham Duncan make up the rest of the field, with only 2 of those guys not having any points at the moment. Momo Scuderia Cavalli currently leading the Constructors' Championship, but it's very tight still between Gulf Racing and Speed Details there on 37.5 points and 36 points respectively. Hardtail Racing still yet to get going as things stand, but still a long way to go in this championship. You want to take the LMGT1 Pros?
Yeah, in the LMGT1s, you got Magnus Dahlgren in the Toyota GT1 out on front at the moment, 39 points, 3 wins with Wouter de Bruin in second in that CLK on 24. Ethan Funk in third on 18. Daniel Kirby in the Panos GTR1 on 16 points with 1 win. Timon Suvic in 5th on 13 with Johnny Gutierrez with 1 win as well. Then you got John Uyan, Francesco behind that, Brian Hall, Felipe Enrique, Luciano Riccardo, Jason Wyatt, Alexander Schultz, Gilles Lalonde, Alec Gorek, Joachim Coudray in 16th, Norm Graf 17th, Victor Janiba in 18th, Adrian Rice 19th, Brandon Gant, Alec King, Risto Corby and Tom Lane down at the bottom. In the team standings, Emmy Racing out in front on 44.5 with CMS Pro on 25. Rookie Monsters on 24 with Depth Racing on 19.5, and then Schultz Rennsport is behind them as well on 16 points. So it's going to be an interesting one, I think. I think we're going to have to see how this one pans out, to be honest with you, Steve. I think I'm really looking forward to seeing what these guys are going to be able to do in the wets. It's been a bit of a tough one, as we've said already, for Barry Dimarzo. It's Ross Smith has had his moments as well, should we say. Felipe Enrique is another one that's also struggled a little bit. As you can see, Becky Ely there is currently off the track, and with Dan Kirby also going out here as well. We've got the qualifying thirst, 20 minutes here in qualifying. Going to be exciting. I'll be interested to see how this one goes, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how Ethan Funk does there. He's in 3rd place in the championship, and he has the Nissan here, which is, as we've already mentioned, very good on its tyres around this track. So it'll be interesting to see if he can make some headway in the championship there. But Magnus Dahlgren has been dominating that pro class at the moment. Fair few wins, 3 wins in a row under his belt. looking to make it a 4th. Can he do it? That's going to be the big question. But qualifying to start with, it looks like we've got a little bit of wetness on the track, but no spray coming up off the back of Daniel Kirby's Panos car at the moment. So maybe it's going to be a dry qualifying. But conditions can change here. Oh, there's the wet patch there as he gets offline a little bit. But yeah, it's going to be difficult conditions this, and very difficult to make an overtake on this thin track. And these fast corners don't really allow for much slipstreaming. You really got to have to wait for the mistakes. And curbs here, those red and white curbs are going to be very deadly in the wet conditions. And this corner here, turn 8, that inside curb there, very high, unsettles the car a lot if you hit it. And in the wet conditions, it'll be very hard to stop that slide.
Yeah, definitely will be as well. Mr. Reese is in YouTube chat. I just hope we are not going to drive behind the safety car for several laps. Well, let's hope. The mic off. I think James is overshooting like crazy. Oh. Can you hear me now? I don't understand when my mic was turned off, but never mind. I know there's been a Windows update that's been doing funky things with my mic. I'm not going to lie, here this evening and, well, throughout this week, to be honest. I do love a good Windows update when it resets everything. And you're like, wonderful. Thank you, Windows, for that great moment of you just resetting everything. But hopefully you can hear me now, and you are back up and running as well. I think the interesting thing about this circuit, though, Steve, is the fact that there's no sudden stop corners. You know, you've got Parabolique at turn 4, which is a little bit of a stop corner, but it's not quite stop enough that I think people are going to be able to make a move. I think, as you say, a lot of this is going to be based on whether or not they're going to make mistakes. It's just really that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to be looking at making mistakes, and they're going to have to survive from there, to be fair. It's about who's going to be able to make the least amounts of mistakes. Now, we have got a reduced field. We've got 22 cars on track currently at the moment. So it's not as big as some of the fields we've seen as well. Maybe the track itself, people just don't like it. I know some people don't. It's a Marmite track. So it's good to see, but at the end of the day, you know, I think with this reduced circuit, with this reduced amount, it's probably not a bad track to have that reduced amount of drivers on.
Yeah, fairly short, and there is an even shorter version that's only about 20 seconds long or so, but lap times are going to be just over the 1 minute mark. 1 minute 10 seconds, 1 minute 20 seconds for each class, and that's going to make the reduced field is definitely going to make the traffic a little bit easier, but there are still plenty of cars to get in your way around this short track. But see here, Daniel Kirby, these conditions are treacherous. It's very easy to get these little snaps all of the time, and the track's fairly thin, and yeah, you're going to be waiting for those mistakes from in front, and you're going to be praying and hoping to whatever deity is your of choice you've got, that they don't collect you when they make the mistake as well, because it's going to be very easy to go off drift wide. Beauty is, for the most part, it's all long, sweeping long corners, so if you do make a mistake, the likelihood is you're going to understeer off the track, leaving a nice big space for the guy behind to go up the inside or through without hitting you. But we know what racing's like. You hit the grass in the wrong part, it spears the car across the track, and it's a real cold brown moment for anybody following. But like you say, whoever makes the least mistakes is going to come out on top here, and it's those who can drive consistently safely are going to really win big here.
Yeah, they definitely are. Mr. Reese, not too loud, turned off, but too loud. Okay, I have turned it down a little bit there as well, so hopefully, you know, it should be fine now. I'll tell you what, I literally physically hate Windows updates because they are just a nightmare. But we can jump on board here with Diego Rodriguez. You see the spray in front of us here, Steve. It's going to be interesting when they're all near each other. You know, at the moment, obviously, we've got this gap for qualifying, and it's going to be interesting to see how this one goes, you know, with the LMGT1s currently out on track, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this as well, because if they start getting near people, they're going to get a spray in their face, and it's going to cause an absolute issue for them to even remotely absolutely see where their braking point is. But we're just coming down the start-finish straight now. We're going to go around the right-hand of Double Droit, of course, at the base of this one. But this whole circuit reminds me very much of motorsport. It's very tight, it's very flowing, they haven't got much room for margin for error, and it's got these uphill blind camber, where if you go to motorsport, it's downhill blind camber at turn 2. And it's just, there's no real sudden stops. You know, this corner here is probably the longest stop that they've got to make. So overtaking is going to be really, really tough.
It certainly is, yeah, especially in these conditions. Like you say, that spray, when you get close, it's going to be so hard to follow safely. And really, especially with the difference in classes of cars, you might not even know what car's in front of you because you can't see them at all. That spray is very thick, very realistic in that sense as well. So it's you've got no idea really if it's a GT3. It'd be very handy to have somebody in your ear as a crew chief letting you know what's going on. But yeah, it's going to be a real challenge, this. And yeah, no real heavy braking points, like you say, no big dive bombs. It's all about making sure that you get a nice tight line around these long sweeping corners and hope the guy in front makes that mistake. But with the visibility as it is, you want to hope they don't make too bad a mistake, because that mistake could cost you as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Any mistake is never a good mistake. Like, you can't turn around and go, oh, I made a mistake at turn 1, but that worked out all right. It just doesn't happen. You're never going to sit back and go, oh yeah, that mistake was good. So any mistake is a bad mistake. So they want to try and minimize, excuse me, well, I put my teeth in. I clearly didn't put my denture cream on this morning. But they've got to look, and that's, as you see there, big old snap at the same time from Alex Garrick as well. It's just really, really, really tough. And not only is it really tough in the car, but it's just tough in general when you're in the rain. Rain makes this a completely different prospect of car, you know, and that's the thing. When everybody's praying for it to be dry, it just isn't, and they've just got to kind of try and survive as best they can, and it's very tough. As I say, poor old Barry Dimarzo in practice was having an absolute nightmare, and hopefully for Barry's sake, I really don't want him to have a nightmare, because he did have a nightmare once before, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, it's a good bet that everybody on the grid's had a bit of a nightmare at some stage or another. But yeah, look at these cars. They're slipping and sliding all over the place. And snaps of oversteer, understeer as you're going through these fast corners. It's got everything, this track. And with the nature of the elevation changes as well, there are a number of places here where you just lose all of the grip as you go over one of these crests. And in these conditions, it could just go on. You can't really do anything about it at times with the lack of grip available there. And we all know what crests and going over hills is like in the dry conditions at times. We were just talking about VIR before we got onto the broadcast, and the right left hander in there, and just how you lose all momentum as you lose all of the grip weight out of the car. As you look here, as the Porsche 1190 GT just slipping and sliding all over it, just battling just to get it to turn in there, and that's going to be very, very difficult to follow. You don't know at any stage, one of those snaps could be the deadly one, and you've got to be prepared for anything if you're following by.
Yeah, absolutely. Because of the fact that the guy in front, you're going to be very minimal on what you can see anyway, with the amount of spray coming up in your face. And if you're basically going to be not aware of what's going on, that guy in front can snap, can spin. And the first thing you always do when you're sliding a car is you will brake. And you will brake as hard as you can to get that to stop sliding. The problem is the person behind will see that either too late, and he'll end up putting you up in the air, or if he's concentrating, or if they're concentrating, or if she's concentrating, it will be different, and they will be able to get past them. But the first thing you do when a car is sliding, you hit that brake pedal, Steve, and at the end of the day, if you're close, you're going to go up the back. It's all about managing it. It's almost like when you're driving down the motorway and you've got the two chevrons, and if you're closer than the two chevrons, you're not out of an accident barrier. And that is something they've got to try and do here. Is got to leave a little bit of room, and that's not because you don't want them to overtake, because you do, but in the rain it's possible you can make a serious mistake here and it will cost you a bunch of time.
Yeah, for the lower class here as well, for the GT2s as well, they're going to have to be on the ball, looking in their mirrors and understanding that these guys in the upper class are going to be wanting to get past relatively quickly, lose very little time, and that could compromise their lines as well. So going to be a real challenge for these drivers, and like you say, yellow flags are going to come in big, in very handy for some of the drivers here. If you see that yellow flag, but I mean, look at our follow on board here with Ross Smith, and you see that giant intake on the bonnet. You cannot see the track at all. I don't know how this guy is going to race this track. To be honest, you just can't see a thing out of that. It's like a 5-year-old trying to peek over the steering wheel of their parents' car, driving around. It's very, very difficult. Visibility going to be a huge challenge.
Yeah, well, you can see on the right-hand side, but depending on what is running on the left, if you've got a triple monitor, you might be all right. It might give some visibility, but at the moment you can't even see where your left fender is over the wheel arch to be able to basically turn left. And the problem is for Ross, he hasn't got many left turns. I think we've got literally 3 or 4 here. So he might be all right, but it was discussed previously about the fact that the view or the visibility out of this car is just absolutely minimal. You know, that intake is massive, and unless he's given up to the ride height or up the lifted up the horizon kind of thing like you could do in other simulators, if that's an option, then obviously for his point of view it might be beneficial, because surely when he turns left here he can't see nothing. But look, you know, ooh, he gets a big old snap as well. But clearly he must like the car itself to be able to drive the thing, and well, he's keeping on track, which is probably better than I would be doing, to be honest.
Yeah, same for me. He's going to get into conditions. Don't do a lot of racing in the wet, being an iRacing driver, but Mr. Reese in chat says that Chevrolet is a typical US car. Looks amazing from the outside, but is a nightmare from the inside. And that's the understatement of the century there, in terms of visibility, for sure.
Yeah, I think any car with a massive intake is sitting in your face, Steve, is always going to be difficult.
Those big Chargers that the big muscle cars in America that I always thought, how do you drive that thing with the engine poking out of the top of the bonnet? It's, I mean, do you even know that you've run over the old lady on the zebra crossing?
Yes, I don't know. I don't know. That would be an interesting thing, wouldn't it? All of a sudden you might just feel a bump and a bump, and you think, oh, speed bump, that's all right, and then you carry on. But I don't know, it's very varied on how these guys see and what goes on, and I think it's just going to be exciting either way what we're going to see here, because if it is going to continue to rain, then, well, we could be in for a big old moment, and it's not ideal. But look, these drivers have done the rain this season already. It's going to be interesting to see when it kind of comes in. iRacing, don't even get me on that one. But I think from the moment here, I think these guys are going to have to try and monitor it and deal with it as best they can, because it's going to be, the car in the rain is a different entity in the dry. So let's see what happens.
And the other side of that as well is that the conditions are probably going to change as things go on. I mean, this is a simulator, not an arcade game as well. So as these cars go around, they're going to create a dry line, and it's going to make the cars change, the feel of the car change drastically as the race goes on. For some, it might get better as they get more grip, but for others, it might get worse because they are set up for the rain and the wet conditions, and that could slow them down that straight if they've got more downforce, more wing attached to the car. And that's going to be the main overtaking spot down that pit straight, down into turn 1, Villeroy, and that's where we're going to see the majority of the overtakes, because it's just going to be too dangerous to make any kind of moves around the other side of the track in those fast, twisty corners. It's going to be really hard to get alongside, and if you did, it's a very good chance you're going to understeer and push them off, get yourself a penalty or cause a spin. I get the feeling we're going to see a few of those today. I get the feeling we're going to have almost ballet level pirouettes here today.
I definitely think so, and with that orange zone that runs from the start line right round to turn 4, it's there to obviously penalise any driving standards within the first lap, of course. So I think they're going to have to really, really, really be careful. In the rain, lap 1, last thing you want to cop is a penalty as well when you're in the orange zone because you've done something crazy, which involves generally punting off another driver. And you've just got to really, really be sensible. And whoever keeps it on the track will win. That's my philosophy. Whoever keeps it on the circuit will win. And that is something that these drivers need to adhere to, because I think if they don't, then they're going to be in trouble.
Certainly are, yeah. It's coming towards the business end of qualifying. Just over 4.5 minutes remaining, and it's looking tight at the moment. And it's going to be important, this qualifying session, as it's very difficult to get the moves done. So those guys at the top, Kirby currently in P1, and with Funk right behind there in that Nissan, he's going to be looking towards, looking forward to having a great race here today. Any issues notwithstanding. And yeah, qualifying zone is going to be important here because very little chance to make moves. The qualifying is going to matter just that little bit more.
That's the thing, we don't generally talk about qualifying as being important in this certain amount of race, but we do talk about it here when we're in the rain, because you want to be out front because you get no spray, you get nothing in your face, you get to find your line, you get to find your braking point, and you get to do a stellar job. And I think that's the thing. So for these guys, they've got to try and get these cars out front and do the best that they can do here this evening, because if they don't, they're going to struggle with it as well. And I think that's the thing. We can see here from Alex Garrick here, you know, he's gripping so hard with that car that it's really tough to try and get it to stop, and he didn't get it to stop. So
that is, there is a little preview of what's to come. And how difficult it can be in these conditions, because you're following along behind a car and all of a sudden they've braked so much earlier, and because you can't see the car in front of them, you don't know what they are dealing with that spray. But like you say, whoever's out in front come turn 1 is going to be having a huge advantage without that spray, and nice clear air in front of them as well, which is always an advantage at a track like this. Long sweeping corners, no dirty air, it gives you way more grip than the guys behind, but that visibility is going to be the biggest thing. Kirby at the moment is sitting pretty in his car in P1.
Yeah, he definitely is. Currently, he's flying along, to be honest, and you know, he's doing what Dan Kirby does on a 1:17.696, 1.1 seconds ahead of Ethan Funk, with Alex Garrick there as well, and Eric Monet, Becky Ely, Francesco Concas, Felipe Enrique, Magnus Dahlgren, Wayne Hutchinson, and George Antelidis. So from their point of view, they're in what is basically the top 10, and it's an incredible feat to get it there. But this man here, well, he's just unstoppable. You're not going to be able to adhere and stop Dan Kirby if he's doing what Dan Kirby does best, which is smashes a great qualifying and then will generally come out and win the race. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, he's a little bit like the Max Verstappen of CMS, and he's had, well, I mean, we've heaped a lot of praise on this man in the past, and but he's going to maybe have some competition from Funk today, because he's got the car for this track, really. Very good on its tyres, and maybe can go that little bit longer on them as well. That left front's going to take a beating around this clockwise track in these fast corners. So maybe he's got his work out, but it's Magnus Dahlgren, I don't think he's here today. Is he, Magnus Dahlgren? So there are a number of drivers missing from the championship as well. But Magnus Dahlgren, currently in P1 in the Toyota, has a very big gap to the drivers behind in the championship. And even if he loses, gets no points here today, he should still be able to hold on to the lead. But it will close the gap drastically, and maybe he doesn't want that, but still a long way to go left in this championship. Another 6 races after this one, 7 including this one. And since there's not a lot of drivers here out of the championship, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people to make up great positions in the standings. It's going to be interesting to see who manages to come out on top. It could be, because of the incidents and issues involved with this, that we get some real surprises at the top end of this grid.
Well, the interesting thing as well is I was just looking through the entry list. We're supposed to have Ross Smith, JT Tammy and Matthew Overton. Well, we haven't got JT Tammy, we haven't got Matthew Overton. So congratulations, Ross Smith, you've won the LMGT2 class. So great job from you. I'd also like to point out as well, Peter Meyer has also won the LMGT2 AMS. So now that you've won, gentlemen, you've done your qualifying lap, do one and pull off and go and have a cup of tea. So great job from them. They've already won their classes.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, though. They're still got to finish the race in one piece in order to get that, or at least get 75% of the way through it.
Yeah, but they've won it already, haven't they? You know what I mean? You could just see a Ross Smith and Peter Meyer battle.
That's a possibility as well. That's and they've still got other cars on track and dangers to deal with, so it's not a foregone conclusion, I guess. But obviously they've got a little bit of an advantage in the fact that they don't really have to race anybody in terms of their championship style. They just need to keep it safe and on track, get to the end, and that'll do. And yeah, big points coming their way.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. They've just got to literally complete the track, to be honest, because, as I say, they haven't got any competition in the classes that they're in, so they've technically already won. So from their point of view, happy days. You know, all right, chill out now, and that's it. Just keep it on track and try and get to the end. I think that's going to be the interesting thing for these guys, is managing to keep it on the circuit. I think if they don't keep it on the circuit, they're going to be gutted and upset with themselves. But generally they should take about 10 laps for them to get lapped, so hopefully from their point of view we'll have to see how it goes. But let's see what happens here as well, as we've come into the end of quali, and we will bring you up the grid once we get past, obviously, the warm-up and that later on. So yeah, exciting to see what's going to happen here, I think, as well, Steve. It's going to be exciting for somebody.
It's going to be exciting for a lot of people, hopefully mostly us and our viewers as well. So looking forward to this one. It's going to be manic to start with. We've got a few guys a little bit out of position. Suvik down quite a far way down in this thing. We have got Dahlgren here today as well. He's quite far down in the order as well. So a few people out of position, and that can make for interesting racing as they try and battle their way back through the grid. But wondering as well if we've got enough pit stalls for everybody to have their own pit stall today as well. In previous races, we've mentioned this before, that we often see the drivers all pull up into the pit stalls and work out which pit stall's theirs, if they're sharing it with anybody. I wonder if that's going to be the case today. We might find out that later from Ross, who will be maybe coming in and jumping in with us at some stage, talk about the league and things. But please have a look in the description underneath the video to see how you can get involved if you want to get involved. Rain is still coming down here for the warm-up. We're going to have 20 minutes warm-up here, and I imagine that rain's going to stay with us for the start of this race. What do you think? Yeah,
it definitely is here as well. We've also got Ross Smith, who's going to jump in and have a chat to us now, I believe, if he's here, and we will have a chat to Ross. We'll talk about what we're going to be doing with the historic series within the mod. Good afternoon for me, good morning for you. Nearly, just about, or have you changed over to afternoon?
Oh no, we're 2 o'clock right now.
Oh well, there you go. So tell us about it, Ross. What's the plans for the historic and the mod situation at the moment?
Well, James, yeah, thanks for having me in the booth. So we're going great guns right now on getting the next year's 2024 historic mod in place. Which I'm not going to spill the beans, but it is a very influential time in sports car endurance racing, where you start to see some of the juggernauts come into play. And there's still plenty of David and Goliath stories happening within there, and there's a ton of variety in the racetracks and the racing types. And we'll have 2 classes that are going on, about 9 cars is what's slated so far. And we're just going through and getting permissions on different assets, getting some in place where we don't have them available, and just kind of getting things ready for our testing team, so that way they can start knocking out the laps, getting that BOP refined, getting the cars refined in terms of performance and variability and all that. So having a lot going on there. And then we've got, of course, the modern series, which we're trying to plug away on getting a lot of visual stuff updated, doing some refinement on the BOP. Since we're going to be using a lot of those cars from the 2023 and the 2024 mod. But in the background, we're also developing 3 new cars from each from each class, and possibly more. If nothing else, having at least some graphical refinements that are going on. Certainly the GTs, they need a little bit more love. All of the hypercars do, and we're plugging away on those as the drivers of the Porsches, the Cadillacs, and the Acuras have seen the interiors of just a whole new life in those. And we've got more that'll be coming up. Hopefully we'll have a good chunk of those done for Road America coming up in August here.
Okay, so plans, let's talk about the series we're on. Now, can you release any tidbits regarding the historic series?
For the 1998? So we, actually there's some interesting things going on here. We have, obviously there are certain assets that were in the process of getting updated. It's just we're a little bit tight on resources and people to be able to focus on those, especially with some of the ones coming up. But the plan is, of course, like with any of the mods, once we get through the series, we'll do some final refinement on the BOP, on the individual car performances, and then we'll release to the workshop. And I'm going to try and get a lot of graphical stuff in place, because there are some older models, there's some stuff coming from older sims, older titles, lower poly ones. Like, for instance, the Mustang, which is not here, Barry Dimarzo, who's racing today in the Ferrari, he actually did a complete overhaul on certain parts of that car, particularly like the wheels, the rims. They look so much better now, which I can't wait to get to that, so that way I can update that and you guys can see some of the work he's done. Plus, he actually built an entirely other car, which we're not seeing yet because we weren't able to get it completed before we started the series, and we didn't want to drop one right in the middle. But I can tell you that, as you see, there are not a lot of GT2s going on here. One of the things that we're going to look at preparing possibly for an MNRL series is running the GT2s and effectively replicating an FIA GT series, where they were doing the international series back in the mid-90s and running some of the local championships like the British GT, and I think they had some of the Asian ones, and I know they had ALMS. I can't remember exactly what was going on there, but basically just focus on those GT2s. We'll have that new car in there. We'll have a lot of the stuff updated. We're possibly looking at adding a few more if we can work with some of the guys like Frederick Alonso, who's in the community. He's a really popular modder who's been working on like the GT4 Cayman. He's trying to build a new Fuji, which looks astounding. I can't wait until he's able to get that one done. But yeah, lots of good plans in the works. And I haven't even talked about the ones that are going to start hitting in Q1 and 2 next year that we're going to be getting to. That's a whole other set of cars that's just going to be phenomenal once we can get to them.
Any hints?
Always amazes me how much effort and time you guys put into these mods, and they always look fantastic as well. So big well done to everybody involved on that front, for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, and we're doing everything we can to make them even better every day, whether it's just through the looks or through the performance. We want to work with a lot of the community members. Whenever they point anything out or whatever, we want to make it good. We want to make it work. We want everyone to have a much better experience, whether they're racing in an online league or just chilling with some AI or something. We want it to all just be very good.
What is the situation then regarding the series once this one's obviously done and dusted? What's the situation for CMS after that? Are we looking at a complete overhaul new series next year, or what's the situation with that? I know it's a long way off. We don't finish till the 2nd of December at Laguna Seca, but what's the plans after this? Are we going to be looking at the running, are you going to be guys going to be looking at doing the same cars for the modern and the historic, or are you going to be trying to update them, or are you putting us in a different era for the historic? What's the situation with cars after that?
So the modern one, it's basically a little bit of maintenance. So if you're following the real WEC, you'll know that like the Bentley Continental is not really running. That one's going to be kind of taken out. We're just going to say goodbye to that one. Jake Sanson was very, very sad about that. And the Audi is probably going to get taken out as well, just to make some room for the other cars, make the model a little bit lighter, just because there isn't a whole lot of focus there. And yeah, so it's just going to be kind of moving some assets around, but we're effectively going to run the same cars just like in real life. And then for the historic cars, we're going to switch to an entirely different era, different year, as kind of has been the tradition. Last year we did the Group C 1991, which was sort of the swan song, easy for me to say, of those prototypes, when basically Formula One said, yeah, we're going to kind of make it sure that FIA gets you guys out of there and invested in F1, and they kind of did that, among other things happening, and they just killed the program, and which led actually kind of to what this era is here, where they killed it off and there wasn't anything left. It was just like a handful of GTs, and that's where the International GT Series kind of came into play, and then the FIA got involved with that in about the mid-90s, and then it evolved into this hot mess of GT1s and GT2s as manufacturer spending got involved, and they started really developing the snot out of these cars. And this is kind of the height of that era before you started to see, like, the open cockpit prototypes that kicked off in the early aughts, and effectively led to the prototypes that we have now today.
Okay, so you say we're going to a new era for the historic?
Oh yeah, very different. It's
I'm pushing for a year, right? You know what I mean? I'm here. I'm trying to get this big old bass on the fishing hook here, because we need something. You can't just tell me that you're going to go for an era and then not give me a rough area. Come on, Ross, play nice.
It's quite a few years before what we're seeing here from the 1998 series, so we're going back in time, and it's certainly before the Group C that we ran last time in 1991. That's all I'm going to give you, because I still want it to be a little bit of surprise, because the modern stuff, there's not as much of a surprise there as to what's coming out. Everyone's seen the new cars that they've introduced in real life, and so we kind of know it's coming, but we want it to be kind of special when it drops, so that way some of our older guys, we have a slightly older demographic within our series on average, so they're going to be looking at this thinking, oh my God, this is what I remember growing up with, like when I was a tot, and really loved these things. So we're catering a bit to that, but it's a great era. The cars are wonderful. They're going to look excellent. We're really excited for it.
Great.
Before we get another groan from the toes from James.
I know, he's just dangling a carrot and never feeding the donkey, is he? And that's where he's at the moment. I don't know, he comes in for a chat, he tells us he's going to tell us some exciting news, and then, doesn't give me anything.
We might have a teaser coming up in the next month or two, once we have a little bit more going with the mod that where we could reasonably show something. Maybe you'll get some silhouettes, something to whet your appetite a bit more.
Right, wonderful. Well, I've got some other good news for you today. Now, I'm going to give you this news because I'm nice like this. Right, because, this is what we do when we feed each other information. Congratulations today as well on winning the LMG T2 Pro class before you've even got onto the grid, because you're the only one here.
So thank you for that, although I cannot take that actually yet, because here at VWSC Historic, and actually in the modern one, you must complete 75% of the race distance before you can score points.
All right, so let's work this out. Right, you said to me 66 laps, right?
Yes.
Half of that is 33, so you've only got to do about 45 laps, then you can come into the pit, sit back and get a cup of tea.
Well, I'm not going to do that, but effectively, yes. As long as I can hit that point, then we're all good. Same thing with Peter Meyer.
Yep.
And yeah, it's unfortunate. It's a small class anyway, and unfortunately, we got a lot of guys out on vacation. Some are like JT Tammy. He couldn't be here. He's actually working trackside. I think Road Atlanta is where he said he was, but yeah, he's off. We got a few more who are participating in some last minute summer races before everyone goes on holiday, especially in Europe. And this is what we got. And I think people are afraid of Dijon in the wet. it's tricky.
Well, I'm
I'll give you
afraid
that.
I think me and Steve are both afraid of Dijon in the wet. We've seen some practices here, mate, and there's going to be a lot that people are going to have to contend with, and I think rain is going to be one of them, and keeping it on track. But as long as you do that and you do a stellar job in the meantime, which it must say a lot about your talents, because you're out on track at the moment and talking to me at the same time.
Well, I have to as I'm sliding it around. It's not exactly fast laps here, but I'm just kind of working on dealing with some of the traffic and trying to keep my wheel on this card table. I'm also on vacation, so I'm kind of running on my G27 here and just a flimsy little table, and we'll see if the whole thing makes it 75%.
And also, one other question, what can you see out the front of that car?
Well, I can see the hood vents and
well, we
a bunch
can
of
see them.
spray. That's about it.
Can you see your apexes?
If there's no one in front of me, yes.
Okay, so you can see to the left-hand side of your car then?
Yeah, it's not too bad, but it is tricky, and once we start getting swallowed up by these GT1s, it's going to be a bit of a rough patch. I know it's going to be hard for them. It was on Tuesday night when we ran the regional division, and they were dealing with similar conditions. It wasn't wet, but it was. I mean, this place is hard to pass anyway, so they're going to be coming up on slower traffic. It's just going to be who can not fall off the island, like you said.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Anyway, Steve, I'm done now. I've pestered him enough, and he still didn't give me the information I wanted.
Yeah, I was thinking of all the same questions you were as well. Fairly disappointed with the answers myself, but yeah, the visibility around here, that's one of the things. I mean, that spray, it looks treacherous. What's it like following a car closely around here?
It's like you see in real life, where you just can't see anything. It's you're totally blind, and you just have to go off of side markers and hope you can make it around. Like, it's not the worst you could possibly get for sure, but I mean, looking at this, it's still 15% about rain coming down. Track is 60% wet. If it doesn't lighten up, I mean, this is just going to be life for the next hour and a half or so.
And is it likely to lighten up, or is it a case of it's going to be wet for the foreseeable? And how's that going to affect the car? Is it dries up? Is it going to get better, or is it with the setup that you've got, or anybody else has got for that matter? Is that the wet setup going to make it more difficult than the dry, or?
I mean, I don't want to guess anything on the weather, because I predicted Monza wasn't going to have any rain at the end, and obviously that didn't quite happen. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The setup is critical here on a track where you're constantly turning. I mean, you have to be, especially these cars, the GT2s, there's just so much torque that you're a ballerina on the pedal. You have to be so careful going through the corners. The brakes too. I mean, it's treacherous. These conditions are just very challenging as I go off. So it's a lot of work. Again, there's no pressure here as far as competition, so I've got a little bit of an advantage to that end. You don't have to worry about roasting tires or anything. I can kind of stay out of the way so we don't ignite the ire of blue flags. And
yes, Mr. Smith, don't make me come after you, I'll tell you.
Not to say I'm going to be jumping out of the way, because that can be just as deadly, and especially in these conditions, if you're unpredictable and you're going where somebody thinks you shouldn't be. So it's yeah, I mean, we all just kind of have to work together and do what we can to survive.
Yeah, okay, mate. Well, I'm done, Stevie. You finished. Should we let this man get back to concentrating on driving?
Yeah, certainly wish you the best of luck. You're going to need it in these on this track for sure. But yeah, any predictions from you, Ross, for this race, or any hopes or dreams?
Well, he's going to win the class, isn't he?
That's the hope and the dream, yeah, for sure. Top of the grid.
Sorry, Steve. Anyway, carry on, Ross. I'm going to shut up.
No. We saw on Tuesday that the Nissans are incredibly powerful here. They're a very good turning car, very well balanced. They're very easy on their tires. I don't know how much the rain is going to affect them, but they should still be very strong. I mean, Ethan Funk beat out Dan Kirby, and he managed to actually thwomp him pretty good. And you can see you got Alex up there. Jason White is in here. I think he's a little further down, but watch for them to be strong and everyone just battling the conditions.
Okay, mate. Well, we'll let you go, Ross. Thanks so much, buddy. And, well, congratulations.
Thanks. Hopefully I can come back and have an interview.
Yeah. Keep it on track, though, mate, because if you don't, there could be some freaks. See you later, man.
Thanks.
I get the feeling that if Ross does send it into the barrier at high speed, he can blame you for the absolute brilliant curse you've just given him there. The commentator's curse, a very real thing.
He can't blame me. Right, let's bring out the grid for you, Steve, as well here this evening.
Yeah, let's have a look at how they're going to line up today. So it's Daniel Kirby in pole today. Ethan Funk right behind in that Nissan. Be interesting to see how much he can take advantage of that car. We've also got Alex Garrick in P3 as well. I missed P4. We'll come back to that. But P5 is Becky Ely, and Francesco Concas in P6, followed by Magnus Dahlgren in P7. He'll be looking to get forward quick, followed by Philip in P8. P9 is Wayne Hutchinson, followed by George Angelidis in P10, and Wouter de Bruyne, a previous champion here, in P11. Diego Rodriguez in P12, followed by Timan Subic, in P13, and Barry Dimarzo. Hopefully he can keep it on the black stuff, unlike practice, in P14. P15 is Jason Whitehead, followed by Gilles Lalonde in P16. P17 is Stephen Miller for the Speed Details Mercedes-Benz team. Mike Olsen in P18, and Gilles Villeneuve in P19, and Tom Mountjoy in P20. Got Ross Smith down in P21, and Peter Meyer close behind in the GT2 class there, with Oliver Day starting at the very back in P23.
Well, that is the grid for today. I'm not surprised by certain things, Dan Kirby on pole. I'm really not surprised. Did the conditions just change? The sunny? Well, it doesn't look like it's raining anymore.
It doesn't, but the track doesn't look dry either, does it? From this point of view here inside Kirby's car, I think we're on at the moment. But
yeah,
could be wrong about that.
No, we're on Ethan Funk, sorry.
Ethan Funk. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how those Nissans do. Very powerful around this track, like Ross said. And we've got Garrick there, up in P3. That's nosebleed territory for him being 15th in the championship. It's just 1.5 points so far. He's missed a couple of races, I believe, or maybe he just hasn't scored points in them. But it'll be interesting to see how he does in this car at this track. It's 67 laps to go, one of those being the formation lap, and we'll be getting underway in short order. Depth Racing on for some big points here, giving the power of their car at this track.
Yeah, I'm looking at the tyre choices now, wondering if all of these are correct at the moment, and that's due to the fact that we could have some drivers on hard. Ethan Funk, Eric Monet is on hards, Olsen's on the softs with Lalonde, and everybody else is on wets. So,
It's interesting. I wonder if some people are really risking the dries, thinking that it's going to clear up pretty quick, and it saves them a pit stop if that's the case. Strategy, obviously in the wet, always hugely important. Who gets the timing right and who gets it wrong can cause big shifts in the order. Most of the time, let's be honest, it's the guys who go to the slicks too early end up losing out big time.
Yeah, it's like anything, they've got to make sure that it's right time. I don't know if right at the beginning is the right time though.
Looking at the spray coming off the back of these cars, you've got to say it doesn't look particularly dry, and I mean you can't even see the 3rd, 4th, 5th cars on as we go around on the formation lap. Very short track, so it won't be long before we get going, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the start. And start here is going to be hugely important. These kind of track conditions as well. Some people are going to fly off that line, and some people are going to get bogged down big time and struggle. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there and how the order changes at the very beginning.
Yeah, I think they will. That's the thing, isn't it? But I can't see some of these being on hards. I've got a funny feeling I can't be. But we're close to the start, Steve, so over to you.
Oh, we're coming around the final corner now onto the pit straight. They'll line up and get ready to go. It's going to be interesting to see these two Nissans, how much traction they're going to get off the line to tyre choices notwithstanding, it's going to be an interesting race. It's going to be very tough these opening laps as well. All those guys at the back of the grid, they're not going to be able to see a thing at all. So I get the feeling we're going to see an incident or 5 in the opening lap. But fingers crossed for everybody. Don't want to see anybody dead in the wall. To get ready here for the start of this race as everybody's looking to line up. Ethan Funk hoping to get going, and they're off already past the start finish line and down into Villeroy for the first corner, and it looks like the Nissans are fighting each other already, but the guy behind backs out. This is the orange flag zone, of course, so if you do make a mistake here, you can't overtake, but if you do make a mistake here, it's much more heavily penalised. And you can see here already Kirby has disappeared. Big gaps forming already as everybody's struggling to see through this spray. They want to keep themselves safe, and in order to do that, trying to give themselves as much room on track as possible for any untoward behaviour from cars in front. But you can see the slippery track conditions here as Garrick getting very slippy and sideways as he's already up to P2, sorry, so he did get their overtake there on Funk at the very start. Funk struggling, already a big gap there. He's got a train of cars behind him looking to get the overtake done as well. And, so far, so good. Nice clean start, but Funk is struggling. He's going to have to defend here from the guys behind, and over the curb he goes, loses a lot of traction, and through go 3 cars up this inside. That's how easy it is to make a mistake here, and already he's struggling and battling to get back to where he was. Ethan Funk, I had my house bet on him before this, and I'm thinking maybe I'm going to be homeless.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like here as well, he's lost the place to Enrique, so Ely, Concast, Dahlgren and Enrique got through. 2 people have not had a good start, was Eric Monet. We can have a look back at that one now.
Must be the tyre situation that's costing Funk so much if he's on the hards. But let's have a look here what happens with this replay. Going very slowly here, Monet. You know, that's not ideal, but there's a replay of the start as well, as we see Garrick getting, oh there it is, that's the spin. He's just got out on the loud pedal a bit too early, a bit too hard in the first corner. Has to stay there, can't move, doesn't want to cause a accident with a poor rejoin. But as it stands so far, things going well. But look at this, everybody's running very wide. Difficult conditions here. Look at how much that car's bouncing off the track as well. There's here's Renee coming back on as well.
Yeah, there was a couple as well. Diego Rodriguez obviously doing this that we're looking at now. Gilles Lalonde as well. So, yeah, very tough start for these guys. We will go back and we'll keep an eye on what's happening here with Dan Kirby. Becky Ely's finding herself in somewhat of a mix as well, with Francesco Concas behind her and Felipe Enrique behind that. So it's been tough for a few of these drivers. Wayne Hutchison has just taken a trip off track. Stephen Miller, I believe, has been into the pits already. He was the one going down the pit lane right at the beginning there. So Stephen Miller going down at the order straight at the beginning. So yeah, I can't see this being a track for slicks either. I've got to be honest. I'm wondering whether or not this graphic is a little bit incorrect.
Oh, contact, and the white car's pushed off and into the barrier he goes. It looked like somebody was just shoving the nose up the inside, maybe where it didn't belong, but it looked like the move was on. Sorry to interrupt, but some action on track there. Big shot into the wall there.
It looks like Concas was having a go here, so let's go back to Concas, and as he goes in, and unfortunately for him, there was contact there, but from behind, and that is what happened to him.
Can't see very well from that angle, but it did look as though the man in white there just turned in. Didn't expect him to be there. Maybe he wasn't focused on the mirrors as he had a car right in front of him. And that is the nature of the difficulty of these kind of conditions. You've got to have so much laser focus on the guy in front so you don't run at the back of him. Sometimes the guy behind poking his nose in can cause you a big problem.
Yeah, it was Enrique was involved with that with Concas. So Enrique and Concas having a coming together here. So from their point of view, not an ideal situation. They've got to kind of now recover and see how he gets on. Now Concas apparently is already out at the moment. So it looks like Francesco Concas has decided, well, that's enough for me. Stephen Miller's been off, Diego Rodriguez, Gilles Villeneuve. I do wonder, is it the Gilles Villeneuve or a relation?
Well, if it was the real Charles Villeneuve, I would have expected him to be closer to the top, in all honesty, given how good a driver he was in the past. I was watching a lovely little clip from George Angelidis before this of a 1979 battle here with him and Arnaud, and it was absolutely brilliant. Recommend it if anybody's interested to have a look at that battle, 1979 Dijon battle between those two. Fantastic racing from both, and at a time when the cars were a real handful as well. But Kirby currently leading the charge and doing very well with it as well. Garrick doing a fantastic job so far as well. Oh, big lock up here from, is that
Villeneuve?
Villeneuve? I think it is. Yeah,
Villeneuve again.
Oh, big snap again, and around he goes. And that's just the grip levels that you've got on this track at the moment with this wet weather. And if you have got those slick tyres on, anybody on slick tyres, I think, is just dropping down the order. Maybe it will work out in the end for them, strategy-wise, saving the pit stop if they can get good lap times in these conditions with the slicks, but I highly doubt that.
Yeah, I highly doubt it as well. Yes, Mr. Rees, I was aware that the real Villeneuve died in 1982, so, you know, unless he's got his ghost sat in the car, unfortunately, it's not going to be him. But, you know, look, let's have a little bit of fun with it, as all the cars are practically spread out around the circuit at the moment, and it's going to be very, very tough here for these guys by the looks of it. You know, 6 seconds down in the LMGT1 AMS. LMGT1, they've got 2.6 as well. Olsen and Mountjoy are probably one of the closest battles here as we look at Mike Olsen. And that's Tom Mountjoy behind him. He's dropped back about 1.3 seconds at the moment. Not quite sure why Olsen's car is not painted. I'm wondering if that's a problem within the sim. So these guys were about 0.9. It's gone out to about a second at the moment here currently. So let's see how Ross Smith's getting on. He's battling away with Peter Meyer. Meyer's just behind him. Of course, Meyer is quite swifty in that Chrysler Viper. So, but he did have a few issues in practice, so that could be an interesting one. And whether or not this little battle here could produce some action between these two as the race goes on, because you see Peter Meyer is clearly carrying more pace in that Viper than Smith was. As we can see there, one of the cars going past him, that's number 74, that's Diego Rodriguez, fighting his way back through, obviously after earlier on. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on these ones, I think, as well, because I think they're going to be nice and close by the end of this to see how it goes on here.
Yeah, I can't imagine all these guys aren't fighting for anything in terms of the championship, but a racing driver sees another racing driver in a similar car on a racetrack and they race them. That's just the nature of racing drivers. So I imagine at some stage it may get a little bit saucy, but I don't imagine these guys are going to take too many risks with each other, knowing that it doesn't really affect their race. But Peter Meyer, being the guy behind, may just decide to send it somewhere. And then Ross Smith's got a decision to make, whether or not he's going to fight that. But Diego Rodriguez gets past. This is going to be a real difficulty for these GT1 cars getting through this. But here goes Meyer as well, down the straight. And it doesn't look as though... Oh, he's going to keep it in there, but doesn't get it done. But Ross Smith give all the room he needed. He doesn't want to take any risks by the looks of things. Probably for the best.
Well, yeah, as we know, Smith's just got to get to the end. So from that point of view, he's just got to get to the end here. As we're looking at Oliver Day in that Ferrari, he's just gone past Gilles Lalonde. Next close battle that's coming near to contact is Jason Whitehead here, battling down with Barry Dimarzo. We know Dimarzo had a little bit of a rough one in practice, so we'll see how Dimarzo gets on here. It's now 0.9 seconds at the moment, and these guys are chasing down Timon Suvic and George Angelidis, who's about 5.5 seconds up the road. So we'll keep an eye on these ones and see if this battle can materialise into anything exciting. I'm sure it probably can do here, but let's see how it gets on, I think, here as well, as we're on lap 8 of 67.
Got Reese back in chat as well, so it was with crying emoji by the look of things. So still hasn't got over Gilles Villeneuve's death. I mean, it's been a while now, mate. I'm just saying. But yeah, we're going to see more action on track here as these Jason Whitehead and Dimarzo following behind here. So tight here, it's very difficult to get these moves done. But look at this, he just pulls over, lets them through. I'm wondering if this is going to be a recurring theme here at Dijon. and people just not wanting to take any risks whatsoever. You see a lot of people just pulling along to the side and just letting people through, so as not to ruin their own race.
Yeah, I believe that was a back marker as well, so I don't believe that was actually a runner. I think that was Stephen Miller, who was a lap back already from these guys. Obviously Stephen went in, going into the pits there in a, is he going in? I'm not sure. No, I think he snapped and put it.
He made a mistake.
Yeah, he snapped to put it into the pit wall. So that's not ideal from Stephen Miller either. But you know, it's always going to be tough. Look at the rain you've got on screen and see if you can pick how you would drive it, because I know full well that I could. And Eric Monet and Concas are out already. Stephen Miller's far back currently at the moment here as well. So it's going to be tough, I think, for these guys to really complete this race. I think if we can see, you know, if we can keep 20 cars, that's going to be toast because Miller's on 21st. But if we can keep, 20 cars on track, it might be all right. But they're very spread at the moment, and that's one of the things that we don't like to see, Steve, due to the fact that obviously it's cars parading around a race circuit.
Always a bad one for the spectators, for sure, when you've got a situation like this, but it's not over yet. There's only 10 laps out of 66 I should say, yeah, there's a long way to go still, and things could change at the drop of a hat. This is obviously going to be less about wheel-to-wheel battling at this track, which is difficult to do here even in the dry, and more about strategy and who makes the least mistakes, like we mentioned at the start. And yeah, some of these guys are really struggling here. You can see it's very tough to keep this car in between the lines. It's all about, obviously appreciating the driver's skill, I think, just getting it around here. And I think Ross Smith and Peter Meyer are probably thinking to themselves, let's just get around to 75% of this race, and then we can race each other, because once we put each other off at that stage, we still get our wins. So maybe we'll see something between those two at some stage as well. But at the moment, yeah, disappointing that a lot of people, that's a big spin. That's the nature of this track. Look at this, the way the crests rise and fall. It's very easy just to lose all grip as well, and with a thin track as well, very hard to make a decent rejoin there, as we've got somebody else off in the background. Is that Rodriguez again?
Yeah,
I cannot tell.
It is. Rodriguez is on as well. I want to have a look see what happened to Wouter de Bruin, because Wouter de Bruin is out. So 2 seconds on that one.
We've always got this kind of stuff to see for entertainment as well. Always entertaining to see somebody go have a formal meeting with Barry R. I'm not sure how he's got that so wrong there. I mean,
I don't know.
Straight into the wall. I'm wondering if that's a wheel malfunction, or whether or not something broken his pedals or something like that. Maybe he couldn't brake. But very confusing, that one. We will get an interview with him after, but he's back in the pits, and doesn't look like he's going to get going again. No,
I don't think he is, to be honest. It looks like Barry Dimarzo is at a moment. Wouter de Bruin is out now. Smith's still on track, but obviously he's got currently the leader behind him, Dan Kirby. It looked like the spray settled down somewhat here, because we're not seeing as much spray. So hopefully the track temperature is improving a little bit. So let's see from this one where the situation is. Did Smith go in and swap tyres? That's one of the things I want to try and find out, because obviously he went on to the hards. There's a lot of people on the hards. Angelidis looks like he's been into the pits and changed over as well. So we're at that, seem to be at that stage now, Steve, where obviously people are swapping over to the hard tyres, and they clearly feel it's drying out here as much as possible, because there's been some drivers in already.
Yeah, and as you can tell here, as you look around following behind, no spray whatsoever coming off the back of these cars. I don't know how our Factor's weather system works, but there's a possibility that maybe some areas of the track are wetter than others as well. But as it stands at the moment, it looks like it's drying out, and maybe that's going to give us an increase in racing action as well. We can only hope. But Ross Smith just wants to keep it steady. I think a lot of people are thinking that at the moment, especially with these conditions changing so rapidly. If you keep it steady throughout the rain, don't make any big mistakes, you can gain a few positions, as others do make those mistakes. We've always seen plenty off tracks and lawn mowing excursions over the grass as well. And Interesting to see how people adjust to the change as well, and whether or not people now start taking curbs a bit more as well. Those red and white curbs, very, very slippery in wet conditions, hard to get the power down, and they can really pull you off the circuit as well at times at certain tracks. So hopefully we'll start to see a bit more aggression from some drivers, a bit less passivity. But yeah, going to start maybe get interesting.
Yeah, definitely will, because Timon Suvic here with Ethan Funk and Jason Whitehead. So Suvic is in the front of this situation there. And then obviously behind that is Ethan Funk, who's trying to recover back to some of his qualifying laps that he was doing here. But Jason Whitehead is in the background. That's also Barry Dimarzo behind that. So, as we see Timon Suvic go into the pits, I'm wondering if he's going to scrap off them wet tyres and go on to dries here. That could be an interesting one. What's happening with Ethan Funk and Jason Whitehead? Well, they're literally nose to tail currently at the moment. They go down into turn one now. Whitehead hard on the brakes there. Got a big old squirrel behind him. Dimarzo has obviously been into the pits. He's a lap back, which is behind him, but it is here with Funk and also Whitehead on who's going to be able to take this position. And this is the fight for 6th and 7th place currently at the moment, Steve. It looks like it could be time for dries.
Whoa, look at that big snap there from Whitehead there. Struggling and battling with that car all the time. Look at the inputs on his steering wheel here as he turns in, and the car just doesn't want to do it, and then it wants to oversteer, then it wants to understeer. Real handful at the moment, as you see there. Another snap there, but it looks like Funk is starting to create a gap. And maybe Funk has done the 200 IQ move, starting on the slicks, I believe. Dropped like a stone at the very beginning. Struggled to get grip of the tank. We've got a car off track on the left-hand side there as well. Come back to that, but maybe Funk here has pulled off the 200 IQ move. Kirby's obviously got away in rapid order, and Dahlgren now in P2 as well, has overtaken Garrick in P3 as well. So, but maybe those guys have got a pit, and that's an extra pit stop. Maybe this move from Funk is going to allow him to get back into the competition at the top end. We've got to move here down into turn one. This is going to see the majority of the moves, as looks like that is somebody overtaking Whitehead. I cannot tell who, but
that's Barry Dimarzo unlapping himself by the looks of it. Yeah, so Barry Dimarzo is on the hard tyres, so I believe that's him currently unlapping himself. Obviously, if Whitehead's still on the wets, that's why he's squirreling around, because at the moment he's got 4 cookers in under his wheel arches that are getting very, 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 very hot. So from Whitehead, it could be time to get rid of them tyres. When I can see who is doing what on the tyre situation, we've still got Ely, Enrique, Garrick, Dahlgren and Kirby. Funk's on the hard, Whitehead's on the rain, Hutchinson rain, Lalonde's soft, Mountjoy's rain, and then hard for Angelides and Suvic. Meyer's on the intermediate, so maybe the intermediates isn't a bad shout for Peter Meyer here, but a lot of these people are going to have to try and scrap off this situation. So yeah, they're going to have to try and get rid of these tyres, and I think Whitehead is going to go into the pits, which he is at the moment, and get on some fresh boots that don't involve sliding around all over the place, because at the moment he's probably cooked them to well, you can probably boil an egg off them, I would have thought there, Steve.
Yeah, big old rubber barbecue going on in France this evening. I think Dijon is in north East France, but I could be wrong about that. My geography is not the best, but Kirby's still going strong on those wets as well. He'll be coming in soon as well. Be interesting to see how this shakes up the order as well, and whether Funk has got the jump on all of these guys by starting on the slick tyres. You had 5 to 10 laps of real struggles, and now that it's stopped raining and dried out, maybe he can start to regain some positions, and the strategy is going to be huge here in terms of that. I'm wondering whether or not we might get more rain again later. No, at this stage, but that could cause a big shake-up as well. But yeah, we're going to start seeing some racing for a change now, I think, as we see people unlapping themselves, and some of the quick guys who've made mistakes, out of position, people who've had poor qualifying, will start to catch up and try and move through the order.
Yeah, that's the plan, of course, for them guys who have gone from the reins onto the hards. They're looking at trying to get up there and move very, very quickly, I would have thought, because they're not going to be wanting to hang around here any longer, because otherwise you're not going to maximise the potential of your tyres, of course. It's always going to be difficult for these guys once more. As you can see, Stephen Miller and Mike Olsen have just swapped places. Stephen Miller has just jumped Olsen for 16th in front, but I'm hoping that's going to be not on the fact that we've got a tyre situation here with Olsen compared to what Miller's on. I think got a funny feeling here as well that we could see that situation once more. Olsen is actually on the softs, Miller's on the hard, so both have changed, but Miller just must be quicker at the moment here, Steve, because clearly he's just jumped him currently.
Yeah, it's the nature of this kind of conditions is that you're just going to get through that tough stage at the very beginning, and Miller's doing that as well at the moment. But interesting to see how this all pans out in the very end, and you could see big changes in the championship, which is obviously what we're here for. The most important thing is those championship points. So yeah, long way to go still. 17 laps down, 40 to go. 50 to go, 50 to go.
50 to go, yeah, lap 67 here as well. Becky Ely is managing to close some of the gap up on Ethan Funk, and they're in front of her currently, so she's battling away in 6th, obviously a separate class from the guys here in this one, so is doing an absolutely stellar job keeping the car on track here for Ely, and basically is just doing, you know, what Ely needs to do with Hutchinson, who's currently in the pits at the moment. Gilles Lalonde is behind that in 8th, Tom Mountjoy 9th, George Angelidis 10th, and then you've got T-Bone Subic, Barry Dimarzo, Jason White, Peter Miles, Gilles Villeneuve, Stephen Miller, Mike Olsen, Oliver Day and Ross Smith, who are still running. We have lost Diego Rodriguez, Eric Monet, Francesco Concas currently as well, so unfortunately we are short some drivers, as we can pick up on Felipe Enrique, who's chasing down Ethan Funk here, as the track is getting drier here, Steve, and doing a stellar job.
Yeah, it's just to see how Becky Ely does here today. Ely, sorry, does here today. I'm going to get that wrong every time now, because you told me off the last time.
She's going to tell you off again if you don't get it right. I tell you that much. She'll turn around and say.
Doing a fantastic job so far is Becky, and this could be her 4th win of the season. An absolutely fantastic season so far for her, and she's currently leading it by 6.5 points at the moment over Georgia Angelidis. So Angelidis in P2 at the moment, but Hutchinson will probably overtake him with the pit stops, as well as Enrique on board with him now in the pits. We're starting to see lots of people coming into the pits, getting rid of those old boots, like you said. But dry conditions looking very nice at the moment, starting to get very sunny. This is great news for us as spectators. Now we can start seeing some real racing action.
Yeah, definitely as well. Dahlgren's currently out on the top with Garrick, Funk, Kirby's in the pits, and Enrique's in the pits also here. So Kirby's will be sitting in 5th, but obviously by the time his trackside position turns out as well, once the pit stops have run and their cycles have run, then I'm expecting Kirby to probably be jumping back into the front there. We've got, so from that point of view, I think this could all just jumble around. As exciting as it is to see Magnus Dahlgren and Alex Garrick in 1 and 2 and Funk back up into 3rd. Ely overall is in 3rd, so Funk is in 4th at the moment. I've got a funny feeling when Daniel Kirby, who is back out in the pits and everybody else runs through their pit cycle, will basically change positions, so we'll keep an eye on it as well.
Very interested to see how things work out for Funk as well, because he started on the slicks, I believe, so but he's going to have to pit sooner or later for fuel and another set of boots as well, because we expect 2 to 3 pit stops here, so you'd expect 20 laps or so in the fuel tank. It could be that he's actually ruined his race, because he was so slow for the first 15 laps on those slicks, and he's now going to be on an equal footing, but he is back up in the P3, but maybe he's going to have to come into the pits and drop down in the order a bit as well, as Danny Kirby looking all over the back already here of car in front. I can't tell who that is, but it's back marker. But he's going to get through nice and easy on the main straight. This is going to be where everybody makes their moves, and look at this, he's just lost all front top speed.
Yeah, that's over Dahlgren in front of him currently. So that is actually Magnus Dahlgren, the outright leader. As well, that Kirby is just about to go past. So Dan Kirby has gone past the leader here as well. So we'll see how this one all settles down and pans out. I think, Steve, I know it's going to be exciting, it's going to be interesting, but I think by the time everybody jiggles and wiggles around, they'll be back to how they were before the pit stop cycles, I believe.
You can see here the difficulty that Kirby's got, as well as the traffic ahead of him so much slower than he is, costing him a lot of time. But as long as he does it, gets through it safely, that's the most important thing. But you can see, look at how much speed he's got compared to his car in front. It's going to be difficult for him to get any kind of moves done through these twisty sectors. He's going to wait for that main straight, really, or a mistake, the guy going wide ahead, and then maybe sneak up the inside. But that comes with its own dangers if they don't see you.
Yeah, and that's one of the things they've got to be looking out for as well. They need to be noticed. Kirby does a great job there. He pulls out, and obviously you don't want to be, although you're looking at the situation and thinking, okay, well, I can get through here, I can get through there, I can do this, I can do that. You've got to outright be careful. And that's one of the things that these drivers are going to have to look out for, because we've still got 46 laps remaining and they're doing 1:18.9, so they've still got a bit of a run here, but they've still got to make sure that whatever they're going to do, they're going to do it in a position where they're not going to lose so many places. You can see at the moment, Dahlgren and Funk have not pitted, Kirby and Suvic have. Garrick has now have. It does say Enrique Whitehead and Lalonde and Villeneuve and obviously De Bruyn, who's still in the pits, but it also says Becky Ely hasn't pitted either. So unless they're knowing something that we don't at the moment, I think from their point of view, they're going to have to come in and get rid of them tyres, and then I'm expecting Kirby to jump straight back up into the lead.
Yeah, certainly will, and he's obviously got the quickest tyres on track, especially in comparison to Dahlgren, who's still on the wet or the intermediates, I believe. So we've got some action here on track, though, as Angelides gets past Becky Ely, and so through goes Garrick, I believe that was, as well. So a bit of a tense moment on track there, with a few cars all in close proximity. Always nerve-wracking, those moments, as you've got cars in front, cars behind, cars with different speeds, traction levels, and you've got to kind of think of a lot of things all at once. The most important thing you're thinking about is just please don't bin it, please don't bin it, please don't bin it. Very tense in the seat, and those kind of moments for me, especially when I was doing the Spa 24, because you're 12 hours into a 24-hour race, you're doing well, and the nerves cause jelly legs. It becomes very difficult to, all of a sudden your mind goes blank, you panic, and your heart starts racing. But Becky Ely into the pits, coming in for her first stop, as Daniel Kirby gets past another back mark.
Yeah, as well. Dahlgren's gone into the pits. Funk's out in front, but I'm not expecting that, as I say, to last very long here. By the time this cycle has come round and everybody has pitted, it still says Enrique Whitehead, Lalonde and Villeneuve have not pitted. Miller in the LMGTs as well, with Meyer and Smith, but I'd be very surprised if either of these guys have not taken the tyres at the bottom. Smith's on hards, Meyer's on intermediate, so you can see the LMGT ones are all hard and softs and hard, so I can probably guarantee that if they haven't gambled, then they would be already in, have been in pitted. So I think that little pit stop graphic is a little bit incorrect, but also, as you see, Kirby has now jumped Dahlgren, so Kirby is up into second place here, Steve, and I think Kirby should claim that place back from Ethan Funk as well when Funk goes into the pits.
Yeah, I think Funk's made an error here starting on the slicks. I can see what he was trying to do, try and save a pit stop. If maybe the track had dried up a bit sooner, that might have worked out brilliantly for him, but it just took a little bit too long. But you can see now the dry line, well and truly there on the track and no spray whatsoever. That's making it a lot easier for these drivers. Now you can see that they're dominating those curbs now, absolutely bulldozering them is Daniel Kirby, and that just kind of gives you an indication of how much more grip is out there at the moment.
Yeah, definitely, and he's absolutely doing a stellar job. I'm surprised that Funk has gone into the pits. He's gone in now, which was what was kind of expected. You can see the cars are fairly spread out after the pit stop cycles. Enrique, Whitehead, they're you know, are near each other, but they're not quite near each other. There's like 2.3 seconds with Garrick as well, Dimarzo. So it's a very spread out field here once more. I'm not so sure if Wout de Bruin is back out and running, so he is back out and running here for Wout de Bruin, but he is currently over 4 laps down, so he's really just in there for points, I think, at the moment, compared to having an opportunity of taking the victory. I think it's going to be very, you know, as I say, he's got more chance of winning the lottery, let's be real, than taking a victory from 4 laps down. Jason Whitehead did jump Ethan Funk coming out the pit, so Whitehead now goes up into 8th and Funk goes into 9th there, so that's important in the LMGT1 Pro category, Steve, because obviously they're fighting for position.
Yeah, it certainly is, and the championship as it stands at the moment, Dahlgren, commanding lead over there in the pros at the moment, but Kirby, we know how fast he is. We've seen him in previous races absolutely dominate the pace, and it's no different here today. He's on a charge at the moment. Channing is in Max Verstappen, and it's going to be a good haul of points from here, but the problem that he's got is the nature of the point system in CMS is that if Dahlgren comes in P2 and Ethan Funk comes in P3, let's say, he's not gaining too much over them. He's currently, 23 points behind the leader in the championship, and already halfway through the championship. He's got a lot of work to do between now and Laguna Seca in December. But this is the way to go about it. You're just going to start winning all your races, and at the moment he's doing that fantastically. We've got a big gaggle of cars coming along the pit straight here, and this could get interesting if this is Jason Whitehead just being overtaken there by one of the Nissans. And the Nissans, not at the moment showing off their dominance here for this track, but around the outside he goes here, and not going to stick. I don't know, it looks like it's not. He's trying it and hold it there, but doesn't manage to get alongside enough into the S's in order to make that move nailed on. But we're starting to see things getting a little bit tighter on track, as you see this gaggle of 5 cars here in the Pro and AM categories and the LMGT ones. This is where it starts to get a little bit more tense and dangerous, because although the wet conditions were obviously very dangerous and treacherous, people were obviously being very cautious in those conditions, giving a lot of spaces. We've got a bit of contact there. Oh, and there's a Ferrari off, and he comes back on the track. Oh, that was close to taking a couple of guys out with the rejoin. I don't think he had much of a choice about that rejoin. He was totally out of control. But I'm not sure who that was there in the Ferrari. No, possibly not. I mean, there's going to be a few drivers out there still being fairly cautious, and actually this gets out of the way in nice safe manner there as well. But 26 laps into this race at the long circuit in Dijon, France, and suddenly a race has broken out, and it's starting to get very interesting. We're starting to see more people closer on track and moves being done left and right, but still a long way to go, of course, and a lot more action to be had. But so far, so good, and yeah, it's going to be tough. As well. I'm wondering as well, but Peter Meyer and Ross Smith, how much of a dent in his pride is it going to be for Smith if he loses out to the only other AM driver on the grid? Surely he should be thinking, oh, as a pro driver, you've got to be beating the AM driver. Obviously, Meyer's a very good AM driver. He's won 4 in a row. He's going to win his 5th, most likely, as soon as he gets to the end. But do you think that's, you know Ross better than me, do you think that's going to be playing in the back of his mind? I've got to catch this guy up and overtake him. Yeah, it looks like she hit a brick wall when she got out from behind the toe. She got a really good exit out of the final corner there as well. But that inside line, maybe she couldn't carry as much speed on that line as the Ferrari. But yeah, as soon as she pulled out from behind, it was like she suddenly just stepped into a pile of treacle. It was just going nowhere. The Ferrari just came straight back along. But let's see what she does now. She's going to have the slipstream all the way down the straight. Much longer amount of slipstream. Much more time on in the slipstream, but it doesn't look as though she's catching at all. It's just the gap's growing, if anything. That Ferrari is slippery like an eel in a straight line for sure. It's going to have to be done under braking, and that's going to be a tall order here at Dijon. Not many big braking zones like they mentioned in qualifying, but here we go. As she got alongside, it's round the outside she goes in the S's, and that looked easier than it was by the looks of things. I don't know whether or not Dimarzo gave it up a little bit. Yeah, and that's going to be a tough one for these guys around this track. I mean, it's hard to overtake here. These long sweeping corners are not the place to make the move. It's very, very easy to lose the car, get a snap, understeer wide into the guy you're trying to overtake if you're on the inside, or go off the track if you're on the outside, especially in these off-camber corners. And there's not a lot you can really do as the guy. I mean, you've got to kind of pull off and give up 4 or 5 seconds if you're the lap car, blue flag car. And yeah, just a tough one for Dimarzo to swallow there. But now he's got clear air, he's got somewhere to go, but some clean air to drive into. But yeah, that was it's going to be the nature of this track, I believe. There's another one going through. Very easy to make a small mistake here. Looks like it costs a lot of time. We've seen it with Dimarzo before. We've got White there going a little bit wide, and it's such a massive difference then being offline at this track. It's making a huge difference, and make it difficult for these guys if the lap cars, the blue flag cars, aren't getting out of the way in the twisty sections. You're just going to have to bite the bullet, lose the time, and wait for the straight. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough. He's doing a fantastic job, and I think the majority of that came in the wet conditions, because he had that beautiful clean track, no spray in front of him, and he could really push on in those wet conditions. And those who started on the slicks were just losing time hand over fist in that early stages. And those people who started on the slicks, Funk in particular, I'm thinking of, was his main rival. Started on the front row with him, but Funk demolished on the line by his teammate Garrick, who's now ahead of him in P3 and looking good for a podium. Dogger in P2 means that he's going to hang on to the lead of the championship comfortably if this is the way the race finishes, but still a long way to go. I think we're on lap 31, I believe, of 67. So, yeah. Yeah, pit stop's always a tough one to get right. You lose a lot of time on the entries and exits as well, especially if you get your pit box wrong, like I did in Spa 24, overshot it, had to reverse, cost me a good 5 seconds. Those kind of things, if you haven't practiced your pit entries, can cost a lot. So they're going to maybe sort of close the gaps a little bit as all the pit stops come in. You've also got some people will be maybe pushing the entire time, not doing any kind of lifting or fuel saving or taking care of the tyres, going for a 2 or 3 stopper, whereas some people might be just taking it easy, looking after their front left tyre and hoping not to overheat it or burn it out, and going for the 2 stop, and that could save them a lot of time. Unsure on the length of time the pit stops take here, but Phil across the pond there in chat saying evening all, welcome Phil. Phil in chat says you can't be heard, James. So maybe that needs some looking at. But take over for the time being, and it's starting to get interesting for Ely. She's got a commanding lead, lap over Hutchison, I should say, and it's interesting to see whether or not that's just down to the pit stop strategies and how those are going to work out. We're going to have to wait and find out really in terms of how these pit stops are going to go. We have got no idea at this stage how this is going to play out, and I for one am very excited. And there he is, fell across the pond, so I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll get to the bottom of it, fix it if we can. But time being, looking good for Ely. She's going to take a haul of points here that's going to stretch her lead at the top of the championship, put her in very good standing to win this championship going into the last 7 races.
Have you seen?
6 races.
Look what's back.
The rain's back, yeah. We've got Mr. Reese in chat saying it's raining men.
Oh, well, there you go.
He saw it first, so credit where it's due. And this is going to get very interesting. How long are people going to stick it out on the slicks? How long before they come in and get the intermediates on? And is this going to ruin anybody if they get it wrong? It's important. It's always important generally in any race conditions to be on the quickest tyre available to you for any particular lap as well. It's you can sometimes try and second guess or predict what's going to happen, but the real thing is you just need to be on the quickest tyre at any particular point in time. So if a number of guys are going to dive into the pits here, get some intermediates on, and gain positions through that as well.
Yeah, they probably are at the moment. Now you can see some of the tyre life on the left, the tyre models on the left-hand side. Dahlgren's into the pit, so it's going to be interesting to see what Dahlgren comes out on. It does say we've got Funk and Enrique on reins, and Olsen's on the rein as well. So maybe they knew something before anybody else did here. But I think from this point of view, I would, if I'm looking up at the sky, and I'm currently not seeing much of a blue sky, I would be thinking about going in and changing over, because you've got to be looking at the bigger picture. Ely doesn't need to be losing this lead, right? She's got an insurmountable lead currently as well, so doesn't really want to be losing this too much. And I'm wondering if being out on them hard tyres for too long could put that into jeopardy. As you see, Dimarzo's in the pits, Day's in the pits as well. So they've got to be looking at now really making that choice. And if the Ely starts losing time considerably, she's going to have to put something else on other than what she's got on at the moment, because clearly at the moment they might not be working. As you see there, Wayne Hutchinson is off on the right hand side. He's gone into the gravel. So Hutchinson there also having a little bit of a moment as well. So tough choices now though, Steve. It's rain, 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 and Ely has got in hot, hot, hot.
Maybe she was just trying to take the wide line to let the guy behind through there, but could also be a mistake as well. But that mistake from Hutchison lets Angelidis through back into P2. He's in the pits already, and that could prove vital for him as Hutchison goes in as well. And that could be huge for Angelidis. If Becky Eli doesn't come in soon, she could find herself at the wrong end of the strategy call.
Yeah, definitely can do there as well. So it's always going to be tough for Ely and what she's going to do there. And but I would be looking at coming into the pits, I think, here, Steve. I would be looking at possibly getting changed over, because clearly at the moment everybody else is going in to change over. So it kind of makes sense if everybody else is doing it, go in and do it. And Ely does go in straight away there and get some new boots on. So great job. Well, we kind of said it was expected, didn't we, really? So from their point of view, possibly the right moment, I think, Steve. That's one of the things they've got to obviously look out for. It's going to be the right moment for them, so they've got to do it.
It's all about the feel of the car. As you're going around in those wet conditions on the slicks, you're going to start to feel the grip just disappear. The back end will start sliding all over, and you're going to have to start catching the car. And you're going to be pretty quick. Reactions of a mongoose in order to do that. Mr. Reese in chat says, my rain dances worked. You evil, evil man. Why would you do such a thing? This is...
Why not mix it up a little bit?
It's definitely going to make things interesting.
Well, they have the problem with it is as well, is the guys at the top, LMGT1s, don't have an intermediate tyre, right? So they've either got wet, hard, or softs. where the guys in the LMGT2 with Smith and obviously Meyer do have an intermediate tyre. So I suppose from that point of view, they could obviously look at maybe changing it and making it different. But at the moment, for the guys in the LMGT1s, wets only. Wets, wets, wets.
Yeah, Wet, 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 famous band from the 90s, did that Beatles cover, fantastic song.
And what did they do? What did they have at number 1?
It was yesterday, wasn't it? Yesterday.
No.
I won't sing. I won't sing. I won't subject anybody to that.
No, I'm talking about Wet, Wet, Wet. What did Wet, Wet, Wet have? I'm sure it was Wet, Wet, Wet.
I've no idea. I'm lost. You've lost me entirely.
Wet, Wet, Wet had the longest running number 1 at the top of the UK charts.
Oh, I did not know that. Was that with yesterday?
No, yesterday was the Beatles.
Yeah, but where did it cover it?
It was Love Is All Around Me. It's everywhere I go. Every you know, and they had the longest running number 1 in the UK. So there we go.
Some feat. That is definitely some feat.
I will find out. Go on, carry on. I'm going to try and see if I can find out how long it was. I think it was something like
16 weeks.
No, it was over that.
Longer, way longer.
Way longer. Let me have a look.
So, I love my music. I play guitar, teach guitar as well, but my music trivia knowledge, very poor. I mean, my music theory knowledge is very poor as well, but ask me to play a complex piece on the guitar, I can certainly do it, but it's all about the feel for me.
15 weeks.
15 weeks. I was expecting it to be longer, but yeah, that's an immense time to be at number 1. 4 months, nearly.
15 weeks they spent at number 1. So there we go.
Well done, Wet, Wet, Wet. But well done, Becky Ely, who did manage to come out in front of, I think that's Dimarzo, or was it?
Yeah, Dimarzo, it is Dimarzo.
So things have been shaken up a little bit in the arm category, and Dimarzo gets back into P2. And after his spinning session in practice, he seems to have got a handle on the conditions, but now these wet conditions are back. You can see that spray absolutely huge off the back of these cars, reducing the visibility once more. We may see people becoming more cautious, but we'll probably see more people going wide or having incidents as well. It's starting to get very treacherous again once more. A number of people laps or more down in the category. It's only Whitehead and above in the LMGT ones who are on the lead lap as it stands. 73 seconds down though, so it's going to be not long before he gets lapped as well. Say Becky's doing a fantastic job here, and this is going to really let her push on in terms of the championship. Her closest rival, of course, being Angelidis, who's currently in P3, so dropping a number of points to her as it stands, but still long way to go. Lap 39 of 67, one of those being the formation lap, of course. Still a lot of drama and action to be had. Yeah,
there definitely is here, and one that I think will be coming to hopefully battle towards the end of the race, because at the moment people are spread out. Ely is almost on the back end of Dimarzo, right? And Dimarzo is just in front of Ely. She's just about there, nearly lapping everyone on her in her class, even after the pit stops. So she has nailed the pit stops and done an absolutely stellar job, and out and out has obliterated the field. You know what I mean? There's just nothing left of it there as well. They've done absolutely still incredible, but yeah, for her it's been absolutely amazing. For Dahlgren, he's done a great job after the pit stop cycle as well. 1:13.386 was his best time. He's pulled in 1.4 back to Kirby, so you know, it's getting close at the front of that. And obviously Ross Smith still leading Peter Meyer in the LMGT2 class. I'm going to say class because, you know, there's only 2 of them here, so at the moment Smith is still out in front of that one, but everybody else really is a little bit more spread out than they should be here, Steve.
Yeah, and regards to Smith and Meyer as well, 50 laps, that's the target that they've got to get to in order to hit the 75% mark. So that number on the top left goes to 51. They're free then to really start giving it the beans and ragging it, because even if they crash, they'll get their point and their win. So there may be start to see a bit of a battle going on there. But at the moment the gaps are large, and maybe we'll see the rain disappear again in a while. But Philip across the pond says in chat, does it not give you a prediction on how long it will rain as in real life? And I have no idea the answer to that.
No.
Any ideas yourself, James?
No.
It's not.
Sorry, I was taking a cheeky swig of coffee while you were talking there.
Apologies.
That's all right. You know what I mean? I'll get back to it in a minute, I'm sure. No, raining, 15% rain at the moment. So, yeah, we're not going to get a weather forecast prediction, because if they did that, they would tell the drivers as well. You know what I mean? So, if they had access to that, I think you would see the drivers then turn around and go, well, it's only going to rain for another 5 minutes, we'll go into the pits in a minute. You know what I mean? You've got to be a little bit secretive, like iRacing, who don't let out their information regarding fuel and stuff on broadcast. We can't get that. But, you know, they've got to be a little bit. So we don't really get a strong prediction on how long it's likely to last for, Phil, I'm afraid. Otherwise, everybody would be looking at doing it, wouldn't they, really?
We need to have Michael Fish in the back seat giving you either information or false information.
Oh, please.
He'll
tell me out.
aware of what he did.
Yeah, he'll turn around and tell me. Well, do you know what, right? The funniest thing about that, 1986, he turned around and said, Britain's in for a light storm, right? It turned out we had a flat-out hurricane. The trees in my street were sprawled across the paving stones, and I actually got a day off school because my mum wouldn't send me to school. But we are looking at Jason Whitehead and Philip Enrique here as well. And as Kirby's just gone past these guys, Enrique's run a little bit wide. Don't follow him off Whitehead. You've got the opportunity to take that position. Whitehead fighting with that car. They're going to be side by side here, Steve. Great battles going on. Enrique does manage to hold on from Whitehead. And in that car in front of 28 there of Whitehead, and I believe that is a back marker coming through of the 89 here. So that 89 car is Magnus Dahlgren, so it's not a back marker, it's actually the second place man. So he clears Enrique as well quite quickly. So they've got to go once more, Whitehead and Enrique.
And that looked like a missed opportunity there for Whitehead there. He had the opportunity to get through there, and maybe just a little bit too cautious, but you never know what he's feeling in the car. Maybe he just felt he couldn't carry any more speed. Fear of understeering into his opponent, rather large there. But that looked like a missed opportunity to me. But Kirby and Dahlgren doing very well to get through this traffic as it stands. And Dahlgren is going to make this a little bit of a race for us at the end here. He's not too far off the back of Kirby. And if he gets that position, that really puts the pressure on everybody else in the championship to catch up with him. Wounded O'Brien, second in the championship on 24 points at the moment. We've got some action on track here. Is that Whitehead almost going into the back?
Almost, yeah. He nearly ran side by side there, Steve. They were literally, it was very, very close here between Whitehead and Enrique as they're going for it full bore at the moment. Whitehead trying to get the grip through that tyres. He's trying to look at the inside now. Is he going to have a go down here? He's not at the moment. That's down into turn 4. So it's turn 5, sorry, coming out on that run through 6 and up into 7. So it's going to be difficult for Whitehead now. He's got to be looking down into turn 1 to really kind of try and make that move. But doesn't always work out as it does there.
Yeah, it's difficult to get the move done if you're on the inside braking late into turn 1 as well. Look at this, defending already is Enrique there in number 5. Doesn't want to give that position. Looks like Whitehead's going to try and get the slipstream. Don't want to stick your nose up the inside here, yeah, Enrique goes back to the racing line, knows he hasn't got the speed, enough speed to get the overlap, and nothing doing for the moment. So difficult to overtake here at this track, even more difficult in these conditions. You can see here, look how much he's fighting that steering wheel, Whitehead. Really struggling with the grip and traction, and very easy to create the gap in these corners as Enrique's got no spray in front of him. But look at this, there's no spray here, this part of the track. Big snap there, fighting the car so hard is Whitehead. But you can't see the spray in the car from Whitehead, but you can see it outside the car as well.
You just see it a little bit covering the screen. So it does kick up, but it just kicks up a little bit on the screen. We've lost Mike Olsen. We have lost Mike Olsen. Whitehead now going up the inside of Enrique. He's trying to get alongside him currently here. So he's going to go on that run round turn 7. He's going to have to try and take that long looping right-hander all the way around the outside. He has managed to get past. You see Enrique in his rearview mirrors there, Steve. And a great job from Whitehead to run around that outside line of turn 7, 8, and then coming down the start-finish straight. Absolutely incredible job.
That required space hopper size testes there to get that move done round the outside, and so close to going off the track and losing it there as well. He was fighting the car the entire time, but here comes back Enrique down into turn 1. He did it too early. He was premature, and now he's got parked on the apex. Whitehead almost runs into the back of him, but this is a battle for the ages here brewing between these two. What fantastic racing here. And yeah, you've got to say Whitehead made a mistake there. He had, the door was open, he had to go for it, I suppose. The old 8 and centre trick. If there's a gap, go put car in it. And but it didn't work out for him, did it? It then left him just a sitting duck on the main straight. That main straight's where you've got to make the move.
Yeah, the problem was he left the door wide open. You know, and if you're going to get the, as you know, the terminology on the JPB channel, if you're going to leave the door open, Phil, what are you going to get? Let's see if Phil remembers what the terminology is here as well. But we have lost Olsen. Olsen's out, the Rodriguez, Monnier, and Concas. So unfortunately, we've lost the 4 there. I want to have a look back to see what happened to Olsen. It looks like Villeneuve has had a big lot of moments all at the same time. Looks like he's had 3 incidents all at the same time. But Whitehead there, you cannot leave that door open because it's not good for you. And I'm waiting to see if Phil can tell me what happens if you leave the door wide open here on the JPB YouTube channel. But it's going to be tough now. Whitehead's now got to be looking at trying to close up and trying to go again here, because at the end of the day, he doesn't want to be trying to drop back too far back, and he's about half a second back at the moment. So it's going to be tough for him, and you're going to get burgled. Go on, Phil. Told you. Phil's the #1 fan.
Going to get burgled. Love that. But yeah, that there, Whitehead just got a poor exit out of Puis, turn 12, curb to Puis, the final corner onto that main straight. Just went a little bit wide there. Poor exit. Unable to close the gap there, but a little bit of a slide there. So we get a glitch in the or ping problem there, but he is still there. He's still going. Sometimes it happens in our factor, but he's struggling here. He had the opportunity to make the overtake. He did it, and yeah, he should have defended that inside line. If he defended that inside line, that would have been much more difficult for Enrique to get back around.
Sorry there, Steve. Enrique made the mistake, and Whitehead nearly could have tried to capitalise it. It went in too deep. It's brought him in right close here. But the interesting thing as well, the Toyota GT1 and that Ferrari in the hands of like the people like Dimarzo and stuff like that are looking very, very swift, and that they're looking like they've got a lot of pace down the straight. So from Whitehead's point of view, the only thing he is able to do in the Nissan R390 is literally defend the line, and obviously, you know, there's no point doing it now because you haven't got him behind it. You might as well go and get your face covered in spray to try and take some of the full advantage of that. But he has dropped back to out being a second there, and it's so hard for these guys to try and combat. And it looks like Gilles Villeneuve is in the 41, and I believe that's Gilles Lalonde in front of us as well. So them little guys are about a second apart. But why it's died down a little bit, I just want to find out what happened to Mike Olsen, because it looked like he had a bit of a moment and put him out of the race. So he's on his way down into turn 1. Oh, he just overcooked it on the gravel into the barrier, and unfortunately for Olsen, game over, Steve.
Big shot line, yeah, that's going to be a huge amount of repairs in order to get back on track, and yeah, by the time he's got that sorted out, we could be looking at white or checkered flags. So yeah, not a bit unfortunate, and just the nature of these conditions. Very, very easy to lock up a tyre, and once you've locked up a tyre in these conditions, you've got to ease off the brake, otherwise you're just going to go flying straight into the barrier anyway. And that's that, really. It's once you've locked it up, there's not much chance of saving it.
No.
But we're still getting plenty of good racing here. Whitehead still within a second, but it looks like maybe Enrique's got his number now and knows that he's not really got that much pressure from behind and can just kick on and create a gap. But looks like the gap between Kirby and Dahlgren at the front as well is increasing as they both try and maneuver their way through some black markers and traffic. That might be causing those that gap to just stretch a little bit. Ely currently having an absolute stormer of a race.
Oh yeah, literally lapped to pretty much everybody in the class, and you can't really say that that's not deserved. She's just been consistent as Smith tries to get out of the way for the faster guys. Whitehead nearly takes the opportunity, realises that there as Smith tries to come out in, basically get out of the way. Whitehead went to go out and realised Smith was there then, and then kind of just went, oh, okay, can't go that way. So yeah, he's going to have to try and go a little bit now closer. He's lost a little bit of time from that one little thing. He's just had his moment there, but for Ely, she is just different level, absolutely different level at the moment, and doing a great job.
Somebody in chat, please get a swift little recording of that little scream there and give me that on repeat. And I'm definitely going to be using that in the future. Little soundboard with that noise on it, just over and over again. That was, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. Sorry. You know, the problem is I just get too excited for my own good, really, and random things come out my chops. So, you know.
Well, it's the nature. Oh, that's why we do it, isn't it? We love this racing. We love the excitement. It's getting very understeery in this car, in these conditions. He's constantly going over track limits on the outside of the corners here and touching that curb there. Red and white curbs are now going to start to get very, very slippery. And you might do an Alonso in the sprint today where just gets a little bit snappy on one of those curbs and sends your back end somersaulting over the front, and that could be disastrous for his race. But at the moment it looks like Enrique's got his number. Like I said, he's already putting out a gap, and it looks like Whitehead is just overdriving the car at the moment to try and keep up.
No, it's not as well, and it looks like it's almost drying out here. So it looks like it's almost drying out. It has kind of hit that sunny stage, so I'm expecting that to be, people are looking at coming in, I would have thought, here as well. We are sunny with 19 degrees at the moment, no rain on track, so it has calmed down. It's now that decision again, when do they go and get rid of the wets? Well, you know, at the moment people are still out on that wet tyre, and this is obviously what we're looking at. So rain from the top in LMGT1s, rains in the LMGT AMs. Hards for Angelides. He jumped in just a minute ago and got the hards on his under his car there. So, you know, could be time again here, because we have sitting with no rain on track.
Yeah, 17 laps to go. We're going to have a nice little dry sprint till the end.
Oh, it's just started again.
Started again.
5%
Michael Fish, you absolute beauty. You've done it once more. And, yeah, I mean, aside from that storm, that light storm coming, and then all of a sudden Hurricane Katrina hits. That was 1986, the year I was born, so I don't remember that one. But I do remember another one. I think it was 1994. I remember a time where he said it was going to snow, and we had sunshine all day, 24-degree weather, no snow inside. So he was very good at fooling the entire nation as to what was going to happen. Okay? But yeah, he was a weatherman here in the UK. For anybody outside of the UK who was famous for constantly getting it wrong, but obviously. That kind of thing has improved drastically over the years. We get much better weather predictions these days. Great for the aviation and racing industry for sure. Yeah, you can see still get it wrong for sure. Definitely at times still get it wrong. Predict rain, it never comes, but it's definitely improved quite a lot with the weather balloons at the centre.
I definitely are. I'm interested to see how Dimarzo and Angelides are going to get on now, because they went into the pits just at the start of the rain and are just sitting on hard tyres. So it's going to be interesting to see. And it started raining literally 5 minutes later. So for Angelides and Dimarzo, it's whether or not they're going to scrap what they've got, or they're going to try and hang this out. Now, how they hang it out and how long it's going to last for, well, we can't tell you how long it's going to last for. Maybe I should stop dancing, says Mr. Reese. Yes, stop dancing, because we keep getting rain consistently. We're now up to 15% rain on this track, and don't forget, it can get to 40% will be the maximum. So what's Angelina's going to do? Is he going to look at ducking in again? He's not in the pit lane. He's decided he's still going for it, but at the moment he's still showing us the hard tyres. So from Angelina as well, we'll keep an eye on him, but at the same time, could be a tough one for Mr. Angelides here, compared to what's going to happen.
He's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't, really.
Oh,
he's
yeah,
made
he's
the
knackered
commitment now.
way.
He's got to commit to it, so he's got to just hope and pray that the rain stops and it comes back to him a little bit. But of course, if he starts getting very slicky and slidey, he may decide to come in and change the tyres just for survival's sake, rather than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the moment, it's not looking good for those who switched early. Pulled the trigger too quick. Trigger happy. But yeah, still a while to go. Well, we've got 15 laps remaining here at Dijon, and it looks like Kirby has run away with it once more, and Funk is in the pit from P3 as well, so maybe he's going to Slicks. Why was he on wet?
Oh, he would be crazy if he did not come back out on them rain tyres. If he does not come out on rains, I would be very, very surprised, and that would just be an absolute ludicrous decision to do that. He has to come out on rain tyres at the moment, not knowing how long this is going to last for. He's got to come out on it. Phil across the pond, the quote was, someone rang in to the weather centre saying we were going to have a hurricane, and I can assure you we won't, says Michael Fish. Well, the trees at Woodcote Avenue in North London in 1986, Michael Fish, strongly disagreed with you. My mum even disagreed with you because I got a day off school, so happy days. So there we go. But yeah, I think now they're going to have to. You cannot come out of the pits on anything but rain tyres, partly because it's raining. You know what I mean? As we said, go on the best tyre that's available to you, Steve, right? And that's what you've got to do. And coming out on the hards now, for Angelides would be crazy. And Funk has come out on the rains, so he clearly decided he agreed with us, as we've got 14 laps remaining, young sir.
Yeah, he's got a lot of experience driving around this track on slicks in wet weather from the very start of the race. Did not work out from then, so he learned his lesson. As we're on board here with George Angelides, are we? I'm pretty sure. I could be on the
Yes, no, it is Angelides. It is Angelides. I'm just trying to see how long before he makes this decision about going in. That's what I was looking at, and I was looking at the situation with his last lap time. His last lap time was a 1:25.919. Now let's put that into perspective with the guys in Reigns. Kirby on a 1:22.8. Magnus Dahlgren on a 1:23.1. So at this moment in time, Angelides is either going for it and deciding, well, I'm here now. And as we say that, it's time for a change, George. Time for a change.
That is the danger.
Yep. It's got to change it.
The wall, as they sometimes say in marathon running. It's you can just no longer go any further on these tyres. He's so slow in comparison to the rest of the field. 2-3 seconds off the leaders. Obviously, he's already going to be off the leaders anyway in the AM class. Those guys at the top, Kirby and Dahlgren, are rapid. But I've got to give it a big shout out to Garrick. He's got everything right today so far, and a P3 from him, from 15th in the championship, is going to make him jump a number of positions and give a lot of points to Depth Racing as well. These Nissans are looking very good around this track, like we said at the beginning, but not good enough to close the gap to those aliens at the front. But biggest loser here is going to be Rooted to Brian, who's currently in P2 in the championship and well off it at the moment.
Yeah, he's now nearly 2 laps back. I think the rain's kind of helped De Bruin go in and out of the pits here. Ely's into the pits now. So Becky Ely has decided, well, it's tough, right? Because at the moment we're looking at a 15% rainfall here with 19 degrees track temperature. You know, you've got to kind of think that I'm going to have to finish this race under wets here, Steve. I think that's the thing. They're going to have to finish this under wets. I'd be very surprised if anybody manages to get a dry lap, and if they do, there's a big opportunity for them to rocket to the front. But it's gonna be tough. They're so spread out at the moment. You can see in the class spread on the left hand side there, 2 seconds from Dahlgren and Kirby, which is probably about as close as anybody's going to be, and then 60 seconds to Garrick, Whitehead, Funk and Suvic, Enrique all down as well, above 10 seconds at least. And then down in the AMs, well, you can see what's happening down there. It's just absolutely incredible. Peter Meyer has jumped Ross Smith once more, so unfortunately for Smith, he is behind Meyer in the only 2 cars in the LMGT2 AM and Pro. But Becky Ely has just come out in the pits, still in front there as well. So pretty much lapped everybody, Steve. So great job from Becky Ely, just driving away. Incredible.
Yeah, very quiet drive for her, nothing untowards happening, and that's the kind of drive you want, especially in these kind of conditions. It's all over and done really for Meyer and Smith as well. They have pretty much got P1 in their respective classes as well. So I'm wondering whether or not now they're going to think about giving it the beans, having a big battle. So let's see how that pans out. But I probably think, knowing Ross, he's probably just going to take it easy and give Meyer the satisfaction of beating a pro driver. But yeah, it's been an interesting race. Lots going on today. We haven't seen obviously much in the way of on-track wheel-to-wheel action, but we definitely saw some great battles, particularly that one between Enrique and Whitehead as well, and we've seen some great moves through the field of traffic as well. But this is the nature of racing. Sometimes they can't all be classics, but this one's definitely been strategically a head scratcher, really, as people really worried about what tyres are on, when they're on them, when to come in the pits, whether to go for the 2-stop, 3-stop, and it looks like Kirby and Dahlgren have both gone for the 2-stop, and it's worked out fantastic for them.
Yeah, I think we're well in above, you know, the 1 and 2s. Lalonde 0, I don't believe that. I believe there might be an error on that one. So, yeah, I think there's possibly an error on that count, because I can't see Gilles Lalonde not having pitted. I would be very surprised if that is remotely correct. But yeah, it's been tough for some of these drivers here. Some of them have done better than others. Some of them have obviously struggled. Ely's now just cutting through back markers. That's number 65 there. So Ely coming up and going. Who has she just gone past there? That's Gilles Lalonde. So who's registering as not pitted, but I can't believe that one, I've got to be honest here as well. But it's no real battles currently. The guy's just trying to get this car to the end, which is what we said at the green room, Steve, as well. When if it starts raining, it is just a battle of being able to keep it on track, I think, and that's one of the great things that Dan Kirby has actually done here.
Yeah, it's you versus the conditions, really. It's almost like driving in an urban, really. You versus the track. You're not really racing anybody. It's just about making sure you don't smash it into the wall. And a lot of drivers have done that fantastically well today. Kirby, like you say, definitely no stranger to this kind of thing. He's always been relatively consistent throughout the times that I've been watching him race. And yeah, it's interesting to see that Funk and Garrick have done so well as well. That Nissan does seem to have a great advantage around this track, and Garrick especially hasn't finished this high all season. I think the best he's managed is 0.5 points each in races, which would be, you know, finishing 75% of the race distance behind 6th place in the class classification. So it's not even a real point-blank position kind of. So far, this is a fantastic race. I think he's going to be very pleased with the podium result here, his best finish of the season. But Dahlgren as well, also got to be fairly satisfied with a P2. That means that he's still in a great position in the championship. Huge lead that he's got there over Wood de Bruyne, who's dropped a lot of points. And Daniel Kirby, this is one for the ages for him as well. He's already won 1 race this season. This is going to be hopefully his second. Nothing untowards, touch wood, before the end of the race, but less than 10 laps to go. It looks like these are probably going to be our positions, barring any major mistakes. But this is racing sometimes. We get these from time to time, but been entertaining from my point of view regardless. It's been a lot going on, a lot of strategy calls, a lot of mistakes as well. I mean, I think Funk maybe could have got that P2. I mean, I don't think he's got the pace of Dahlgren, but if he got the strategy right, he might have been a lot closer. He's had to pit too many times here though.
after that we will find out that obviously being on that tyre is at that moment the right thing to do, you know, and Kirby, Ely have got it correct, and that's why you're looking at the left-hand side of the leader, gap to the leader. You know, Dahlgren's the only man left on the lead lap, and that itself shows you how right the likes of Kirby and Ely have got it, and they've absolutely nailed it. They have got it to the point where it's so correct that, you know, they've just done an incredible job. And I think that's one of the things here, how well they've actually done this, because of the fact that, you know, Becky Ely can literally be driving around now. It's like a Sunday drive for her, because she's just got no fears. She's got over 1 minute and 15, if not more, to the guys behind, and there's nothing really for her to worry about. And the same with Kirby. There's no way Dahlgren now has gone into the pits in the last lap is going to be able to get Kirby, being that he's 66 seconds. That's 1 minute 6 seconds, guys, and we're minute 14. Kirby's only up the road now. He has gone into the pits as well, so he's gone in for a little splash and dash. That's going to bring them closer, and whether or not Dahlgren can get remotely close will be the interesting thing. But at the moment it looks like Kirby and Ely have just got this sewn up.
Yeah, certainly do. And like you say, right tyres at the right time. And I think the trick with that in any conditions, in any race, is just don't overthink it. Is this tyre quicker than the one I'm on? Get on it then. That's it. That's basically all you need to think about. You don't need to try and predict what's going to happen or try and be clever with it. It's just, is this tyre quicker? Yes, let's go on it then. Is my tyre the right tyre to be on at this moment in time? I did this in a managed to get one of my best results ever in the F1 2022 game by when it started raining at Spa, little dribs and drabs. Everybody peeled into the pits for the intermediate tyres immediately, and me and my teammate just decided no, we're not going to do that. And the slicks lasted for the rest of the race pretty much. We pretty much finished on the medium tyres. We went soft to medium, and everybody else had to come in again because their tyres were no good. They had to come in, do 2 pit stops where we had to do none. So we finished 1-2, almost got my teammate on the line. I was very disappointed with that. I've never won a race in F1 games. Unfortunately, 2 P2s, that's the best I can do. But that's all it is. Just don't overthink it. Just, is this tyre quick? Is it working? Yeah, stay on it then. That's that.
And that's it. That's what we've said. Be on the right tyre at the right moment at that right time. And the likes of Dahlgren, Kirby, Funk's now managed to get himself onto that lead lap as well. Kirby's gap's now out of 30 seconds. Ely's just, well, she's just gone. Like, you know, she's off already onto the next one. She's turned around and said, well, guys, you can carry on. I'll see you later, because she's doing an absolutely stellar job as well. And yeah, flying. Absolutely flying. Maya's still ahead of Smith. Mind you, Smith did have a little bit of an off track earlier on. Gilles Villeneuve has also been off the circuit here, so currently poor old Gilles is not loving this track, not gonna lie, but is currently still sitting in 16th overall here. So from that point of view, that's not too bad. That's 9th in the class for him. But yeah, it's now just getting the car to the end here, Steve. I think that's the thing. Everybody is so spread out. It's now just getting the car to the end of the race.
Yeah, well, for Villeneuve, it's got to be difficult conditions for him. I mean, he's been dead for 41 years, so it can't be easy to catch a car with rust in your bones like that. But
steady, Steve Caravellis.
Oh, come on. Too soon? What?
No, I'm not saying too soon, because obviously, you know, it's a long old time, isn't it? But I swear, don't call me, all right? Don't DM me. All DMs to Steve Carabellis if you find that deeply offensive. I'm not being involved in that one as well. I can't control it. He's, you know, he's his own man.
I'm just a loose cannon. What can I say?
Yeah. What's the terminology? You're a maverick.
Maverick, yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
it makes you sound.
I absolutely loved Top Gear when I was a kid.
Top Gear or Top Gun?
Top Gun, sorry.
I was going to say Top Gear. Yeah, what are you, Jeremy Clarkson?
Show my age, yeah. Dementia's starting to set in. But it's, yeah, Top Gun. I absolutely adored that show. And believe it or not, I haven't seen the new one yet. I really want to see it.
You haven't watched the new film?
No.
Oh, no. Mate,
I've heard it's good.
It is good. It is good.
Definitely need to get on that if I can. But 62 laps out of 67, we're starting to get the business end, and unfortunately, from a spectator's point of view, I don't think much is going to change from this stage. But Peter Meyer can be very, very satisfied with his performance today. He's beaten a pro driver on pure pace alone, and done a fantastic job here as well. Both these guys in the AMS, really not racing anybody, but they've done a good job to keep it on track for this entire time. And obviously, they were pretty much guaranteed to win at 51 laps, and they've kept it going and kept it out of the walls still as well. But big gap between them after the off-track excursion for Ross, and that means that they're probably not going to have any kind of battles. But I would have liked to see that. I would have liked to see these guys really go at it hammer and tongs, because they know they've got nothing to lose. If they were next to each other on track, it would have been a fantastic battle. But you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, definitely do as well. Becky Ely is still top of the championship as well on that one. I love those Top Gear SNES games. I think that might be irony on what you said. I don't remember any Top Gear SNES games, so yeah, I think that might be picking up on what you said there, Steve. Could be YouTube chat giving you a little bit of grief there with the hands of Mr. Reese.
I've got thick skin, don't worry about it.
Yeah, broad shoulders.
Definitely, but Becky Eli's in charge of the championship at the moment. She's going to take another 4 points lead over it, after already being 6.5 points in the lead over Georgia Angelidis, but Georgia Angelidis down in P5. Maybe it's going to be more actually, but Hutchison in P3 of the championship on 27 points will jump Angelidis, and that's going to be a big one for him. But Hungaroring next, and that is a track that throws up a lot of challenges of its own. It's sometimes nicknamed the the Monaco circuit. It's almost as tricky and difficult as Monaco in terms of corners, but no barriers to smash yourself into. Very easy.
Hold on a minute. Hold on. Oh, there was a Top Gear video game created by published by Kemco and developed by Gremlin Graphics in 1992. No way.
I didn't know that, I have to say, but yeah, Tokyo Zoo completely unrated, the TV program, but they were really good. But now that you mention it, I've got a vague memory of a Tokyo game, but I remember the first racing game I ever got was called Grand Prix Circuit, and it was an 8-bit game. It was absolutely terrible, and I was just looking that up recently, because somebody was talking about the first games they ever played, yeah, it's nostalgia.
It looks like
actually, no, I tell a lie. I tell an absolute lie. The first racing game I had was a tiny little red thing with a steering wheel and just
steering from left to
little
right.
8-bit thing. Yeah, it had like a little gear shifter. It wasn't on a computer at all. It was just its own little toy, and I had that when I was 2 years old or something. That was the very first racing game I had.
Yes,
which shows my age.
That. No, we are old between the two of us, but yes, the Top Gear game looks very much like Outrun. As well, so it looks very much like Outrun. I know this is quite bad of me, but there is somebody actually running on YouTube of a playthrough of the Top Gear SNES playthrough. It's from start to finish. So
I'm just looking it up myself now as well, and I played that game. I played that Top Gear game. I remember the screenshots from it. So yeah, I had that on on the SNES, like you say.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, what a memory there from Reese as well.
Gee whiz, that's like a long time ago.
I've forgotten more games than I've played over the years, I have to say. The Nigel Mansell IndyCar game on the SNES as well, that was amazing too. I don't think I had that one, but I think a friend of mine did. I got started young in this racing malarkey, I have to say. My dad was a big car fan and an engineer, so amazing music scores as well. Yeah, a lot of those SNES games did have amazing music, even though they were 8-bit and just 4-track little squeaks and beeps and things like that. I think some of them were absolutely fantastic, I have to say. Final Fantasy, one of the best ones. 2 laps to go here at Dijon.
Yeah, 2 laps to go. Sorry, we completely digressed away from the racing and was looking at old-time games here. Nigel Mansell IndyCar. It reminds me very much of that Grand Prix game where you just got the front wheels and the steering wheel and you're just trying to hang on to the car. You can literally at one point go round all of the corners at full speed because you didn't need brakes because the cars didn't have that motion. So yeah, I think overall that era of games was quite amusing when they come out because it was absolutely incredible. And you used to be able at some points go round in full speed without having to worry about braking, which was incredible. So yeah, were you not able to get Becky into the commentary booth? I did, and I was, and she was booked in but then her plans changed and she was on the racetrack, Phil. So, yeah, didn't fancy commentating why she was racing. But I did get her in, and there is talks of getting Becky back in with us as well. So, yeah, there's a lot going on at the moment within JPB, and we are sorting out comms guys and everything else. So there's changes all the way through the board, I think, currently at the moment. And there's been some people that's joined the JPB team, and yeah, so we've got more going on once more as well. So a lot happening across the board here on the JPB YouTube channel.
1 lap or 2 laps to go here in Dijon in France, and it's well, I don't want to sugarcoat it, but it hasn't been a classic, but it's definitely been had its entertaining moments, this race, and it's been tough for the drivers, and that you can definitely see that with the conditions here as well. But Kirby coming around, is this the final corner? I believe it is.
Yeah.
At the moment is going to get onto the white flag lap and take us to the finish line, and Phil across the point said, did the Nigel Mantle game and ended reversing into the wall. So after that, in every racing game I've ever played, I have to say, I don't think there's a single racing game I haven't been the car in. It's just very easy to do.
Yeah, no, me neither. I've got to be honest on that one, Phil. I think, to be honest, we've all done that. I've done it in iRacing, I've done it in F1 22, 20, 21, 20, I can't remember which one I've got.
I've done it in real life, on a real road.
Yeah.
Twice, 2 or 3 times I've had a crash. And
well, I'm not getting in the car review then. Remind me not to do that as well. Kirby's on the white flag lap now. The white flag's out. Last lap of the race. I've only had one crash in my car, right? And I was very, very upset. My Escort RS 2000 crashed into.
Nice car.
It was a nice car. It was, and I'll say it was because after the crash, the fuel cut-out switch come on and dumped the fuel across the road, and unfortunately that was the engine shot to pieces. So yeah. But I did make a Fiat Punto, the square box Puntos, look like a hovercraft.
I've got a funny story about a Punto. A friend of mine decided to go collect a lot of bricks for a little rockery in his garden, like a little flower bed in his garden. Filled the back of his Punto up with bricks and put it in first gear, tried to drive away, the back suspension snapped. Straight away. Ruined.
Nice.
Totaled the car. Punto's not ideal for carrying around half a ton of bricks.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, personally for me it was a Volvo Estate that I managed to wrap into a tree at 80 miles an hour. And the other one was just a bit of a slippy rear-ended Golf. I had some cheap Chinese tyres on my Golf 1.6 match, and I was going around a tight corner, and the back end came out.
Kirby's just coming over the line here to take the victory. Dan Kirby will win tonight's race for the LMGT1s. An absolutely incredible job by Dan Kirby. Won it all the way through there, stunning. And then Becky Ely is going to come across the line there, Steve, for the LMGT1 AMS.
Yeah, great drive from both of them as well. Honourable mention to Dahlgren, who managed to gain a lot of positions there, overtaking the Nissans through the course of the race. I think he managed to get a couple with the pit stops mainly. I think Funk will be disappointed in his performance today, because if he'd got things a little bit better on the higher strategy, maybe he could have collected a few more points for himself. But the man at the moment is going to be Garrick. A podium finish for him, his highest finish in the season. He's done an absolutely great job.
Yeah, absolutely. Stunning from all of these drivers. Absolutely incredible. Becky Ely coming around the last sweeping right-hander will take the victory in the LMGT1 AMS as well. And of course, Peter Meyer actually saw for a right around turn 5 before she goes out around turn 6 and 7. Peter Meyer and Ross Smith, obviously congratulations to them. They won their class and have done an absolutely incredible job from them. So yeah, all in all, great racing from everyone in very, very, very tricky conditions here. So yeah, great job from them.
I have to apologise there. Garrick's come P4, not got the podium. It's actually Funk, his teammate, who gets the podium. But that's good news for Funk. I'm sure he's going to maybe jump Wouter De Bruyne, who had one to forget today. Glad to see that Dimarzo didn't get the ballet shoes on and start the pirouettes. Like he was struggling so much in practice beforehand, but looks like he found where the limits were and did a good job in the end. P4 for him, and yeah, we'll what a fantastic race that was. I mean, not a lot of wheel-to-wheel action. We can't always have that though, but you've got to say this was very, very tough for the drivers, like you said. So tough conditions, and those who've managed to get it to the end, kudos.
Yeah, absolutely. A big kudos to them, because I'm not saying how I would have been driving in the rain, but it probably wouldn't have been as good as some of these drivers have managed it today. So yeah, great job from all of them here, and a stellar one as well. So we can't moan about that. That was an interesting race there, and I think going forward, you know, there's going to be a lot more coming, of course, the Hungaroring, so we'll have to see how it all pans out. But everybody has finished here as well, and then we will be waiting for interviews. We're going to take a brief moment very, very shortly until the interviews come into the booth and have a chat with us here as well, Steve. So all in all, not a bad day's racing.
Yeah, not too bad at all. I mean, we had that fantastic wheel-to-wheel battle between Whitehead and Enrique as well. That was some real tasty action there. But yeah, I can't wait to get interviews with some of these guys. I mean, Becky Ely is going to be a favourite. I mean, she took to that commentary. Obviously, we've talked about this already here today. She took to commentary like a duck to water. There's plenty of water out on track today as well. So she was in her element. Looking forward to see her get involved with more commentary if she can.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that'd be a great one to see as well. Becky Ely in the booth with us has done an absolutely fantastic job there. So yeah, all in all, great race. And here are the final results for you.
Yeah, let's go through these. So doesn't look quite right. That says Ethan Funk in P1, but we'll go through it as it stands. I mean, that's well, I don't think we'll
no, bear with. Let's see. Hold on a minute. Did Kirby get a penalty?
It's showing here at the moment on the screen. That's only done 29 laps, which is definitely not the case. So I think there's maybe just something gone.
I think it's having
Spanner's ended up in the works there somewhere.
I think it's having a moment. Bear with. Let me give it a.
Well, you're sorting that out. I'll move on to Becky Eli's as an interview. Yeah.
Yeah. Pull Becky in. Go for it. I'll try and resolve.
Yeah, we'll pull Becky in then and go for an interview while we're waiting for the standings. But Becky, fantastic race. You've won that by almost a lap. You've got to be very, very satisfied.
Yeah, that was great fun. Really, really good. The rain really spiced things up.
How difficult was those rainy conditions to deal with? It looked like you had a quiet race all in all, but it couldn't have been that quiet or in your seat given the conditions.
Oh, it actually was pretty quiet. I mean, it was sketchy conditions, but I had the car set up for it, and everyone seemed to take themselves out of contention somehow. So I just kind of sat back and did my best Dory impression. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming.
I was definitely wet enough to get the swimming goggles on out there today. You seem to get the strategy perfect today as well with terms of tyres and getting on the right tyres. We're talking about this on the commentary. I'm sure you'll see when you watch things back. But how much of that is just not overthinking it, like I said in the commentary? Did you just think to yourself, well, if it's raining, I'm going to put the wet tyres on. If it's dry, I'm going to put the dry tyres on. What was your thought process?
I'm thinking about it every time going down the back straight. My mind is working out like, oh, if I pit here, I'll have this much fuel. So I need to work out how much fuel I need for that final stop. Or if I pit now, how much time would I gain going on to the softs? I'd probably gain about 3 seconds a lap going on to the softs early. That means I'd need about 20 laps almost, good 15 laps to make up the time based on staying on the wets. I was doing that the whole time. And yeah, at first I just thought I'll go long enough that I can two-stop if the weather permits. And then when the weather didn't permit, I was just like, well, it's time to be on the wets. Then for the final stop, I was like, I've done 15 laps on the wets. They're a bit slippy. There's 15 laps to go. I'll put a fresh pair of boots on. I'm a lap in front. I'm not racing anyone. Just play it safe.
Yeah, and treacherous conditions, like we've mentioned there. Did you have any big moments, any real heart attack moments at all during the race?
No, a few small moments, but nothing big. But I didn't have to push. Everyone took themselves out or got the strategy wrong. So yeah,
Yeah,
just
definitely makes
keeping
it easy for you.
concentration.
And just moving on to the final couple of questions here as James sorts things out in the background. You've got a commanding lead now in the championship. George Angelidis wanted to forget the day, had a bit of a moment, got the wrong tyres in the last stint there as well. So you're going to extend your lead over him. And it's got to be looking good for you when you look at that championship board for the remaining 6 races of the season. Do you think you can win this championship?
I think there's a lot more than 6 left, isn't there? There's about 8. So everything's still to play for, really. I think even if George had a bad race, I'm probably not much more than 10 points in front. That's only a race. One
That's
bad race for me, and it's all to play for. So, it's way too early to be thinking seriously, but I'll give it my best shot.
There's 6
4th
rounds.
win of the season, though. 6 rounds remaining, though.
6 rounds remaining.
Hungaroring, Suzuka, Donington, Austria, Miami, and then Laguna Seca, and that's us done.
Okay.
So not
there was
as
a lot
long
more.
as you think. So it's coming to you a little bit here. You've got a sizable gap over Angelidis, who's going to lose out P2 to Wayne Hutchison, who's what's he going to be on? 33 points, and you're going to be on 44.5 after this race. So a comfortable cushion there. 10 point. You could lose a race entirely, no points, and Wayne could win one, and you would still be in the lead by half a point. Got to be a satisfying thing to hear.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's definitely satisfying. But as you said, all I have to do is have one DNF, and then it's back to square one, isn't it?
Game on again, yeah. But so we've talked about your commentary career before you came in as well. Are you got any plans to get back in this booth and help us out, or work with JPB for some commentary in the future?
I would absolutely love to. And normally I have a bit more of a voice than this, but I'm quite ill with COVID, so that's why I can barely talk at the moment. But I would love to come and help out in the commentary booth. And I was meant to a few weeks ago, but then suddenly plans changed and I was able to actually make the race. So I felt quite guilty about that. It's great fun commentating, but it's just time, really. There doesn't seem to be anything at the right time for me.
I'm sure that'll change as we get more work coming in, but that makes your win even more impressive that you've done it while laid up with COVID as well. So a big congratulations to you. But we're going to move on, Becky. Thank you very much for your time. We'll either move on to Daniel Kirby's interview or look at the standings if we've finally got them. But yeah, I hope you get better soon, and best of luck in your next race in Hungaroring.
Thank you very much, and thank you as always for your excellent commentary. It really does make such a difference. It's so professional and love watching it back.
Oh, you're making me blush. But yeah, thank you very much. Kind words as always. But you go rest up, get yourself well. Thank you very much for your time.
Right, so there we go. That was Becky Ely. Now we can bring in Dan Kirby into the booth. Dan, welcome in. How are you, bud?
I'm pretty good.
That was nice and easy, right?
I don't know if I could call it that.
Oh, come on. You're won by a country mile. I know there was tough spots. I know the rain, making sure you're on the right tyres. What thinking did you do into that, Dan? Because obviously at any one point it was always difficult, wasn't it? So trying to make sure you're on them right tyres at that right point of that racetrack or that race was always difficult, wasn't it?
Yeah. Most of us started on rains, and then Ethan, who was second behind me, started on slicks, so he had to give it up instantly. And then it was difficult to judge when to make the switch to slicks. Thought about going through the whole tank and just burning it up and just sticking to my planned fuel strategy, but I ended up pitting early. I might have been one of the first ones to go onto slicks, and I believe I increased the gap to Magnus by quite a bit. And then when it started raining again later, it was reversed and he went to wets before me, and then I think I came up like right in front of him. So yeah, it was very difficult getting staying on the right tire at the right time.
Yeah, but it was there as well. Going forward, what sort of championship aspirations have you got, Dan? Do you think you could put yourself up within the mix on these ones?
I actually have no idea where I am in these 98 series.
Fourth, Dan. Fourth. You're fourth at the moment on 16, before this win, of course.
Oh, not too bad.
I think you'll be a level on points with Ethan Funk after this as well, but I think you both might jump Wooter. You could be third at the moment, but because you've got the extra win, well, 2 wins, you'd be ahead of Ethan Funk, so currently second. But Magnus is dominating things so far after 3 wins in a row. He's sitting on 39 points. It's a tall order to catch him, but if anybody's got the pace to do it, I believe you're the man. What do you feel about the remainder of the tracks on the remainder of the calendar? Have you know what we're looking at, and what kind of idea, or is there any that really stick out to think, I'm not going to do very well there, or any that stick out to say, that one's going to be for me?
Well, for this series, I never really planned from the beginning to like attend all the races to like challenge for the championship, so I'm probably gonna miss at least 2 or 3 the upcoming races, so I'm just kind of doing this one for fun.
How fun was it today out there in those conditions? I get the feeling that the car was a bit snappy at times. How treacherous were those curbs?
Yeah, it was very sketchy and very tricky, but also very fun.
I can imagine, definitely. Well, try to wrap it up. We'll gotta need to show the standings and things, but thank you very much for the time coming into the booth. Wish you the best of luck in the future races. But well done once more. An absolutely fantastic drive, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you guys. See you guys later.
Take care. Have a good one. So if we can't go over to those standings now that we've got things working again. Kudos to James working diligently there in the background to get those up. See if we go through those now. But yeah, what a race this has been. It must have been very, very difficult for the drivers involved, and tough one to get right. Daniel, though, still in contention, even though he's not taking it so seriously. But let's see if we can get these standing to stay put.
I did. I did. They were there a minute ago. Come on, boys, behave yourself. What is happening now? They were literally there at 1 minute ago, but it's just not wanting to play ball anymore. It's gone a little bit Pete Tong towards the end. I did find out why the standings didn't come up correctly, as the game did decide that it wanted to crash on me as well. But yeah, it's now decided that it doesn't want to show them. Come on, be nice. Come on, you can do it, computer. Oh, you have to love live TV, don't you?
Oh,
yeah,
what can you do?
Look, did you see him?
I did not. I mean, I can't read that fast, James. Come on, I'm a quick reader,
Mate,
but
I'm trying.
There's limits.
There's nothing I can do.
Limits.
They're just not wanting to stay on the screen. Come on, you can do it.
We'll have to try and muddle through as best we can. I've got some of the top 5 of each class anyway on the side. Obviously, we've got the GT2 AM classes, pro class with Smith, who won his class, obviously, only man there. We've got Peter Meyer in the GT2 AM class, who's won his there as well. They're the easy ones to get out of the way. But it's Becky Ely, who won the GT1 AMs, and by some margin, 2 laps over the next guy, Hutchison, in P2. It's Day in P3 there in that class, and P4 was Dimarzo, followed by Angelidis in P5 after he had a bit of a torrid time in that last stint, getting the tyres wrong, going off track on the slicks. Made he pull the trigger a bit too early for those. It's Kirby who wins the pro class in the GT ones as well, followed by Dahlgren, who's 63 seconds behind. Dominant performance by Kirby here today. Funk rounds out the podium with a P3. He managed to recover after making a mistake starting on the slicks. And it's Garrick who had a drive of the day for me in P4. Absolutely fantastic result from him. And it's P5 for Whitehead. But unfortunately, I'm looking at this from the stream itself. Looking to rewind the stream there. And we don't have the rest of the grids. Hopefully we can sort that out, but we'll probably have to make do with that. James.
Yeah, it's doing this wonderful flicking on and off, and I'm not entirely sure what the situation is at the moment. I've tried multiple things that I know how to get it to work, and the last thing is an Irish screwdriver, but I don't think that would go down too well, so I think we might have to call it a day on that one, guys. I do apologise, but it's just not playing ball.
Problems happen. And they do say never work with animals or small children, and RF can definitely be a bit of an animal at times. But we'll have to just leave it there. But so thank you very much for everybody who's watched and liked the stream. If you haven't subscribed or you want to get involved in CMS, please look in the description below. But for now, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from him. Thank you very much for watching.